This week in Abuja, Nigeria's Senate chambers melted into chaos, not over legislation, not over national interests, but over the Senate president's ego. A closed-door session meant to discuss a planned recess instead devolved into a shouting match between Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Senate Leader Opeyemi Bamidele, with threats of fiscal altercation barely averted by other senators. As sources report, Bamidele publicly denounced Akpabio as autocratic and unconsultative, accusing him of never convening leadership meetings, acting without impute, even considering resignation out of frustration. Now let that sink in. No debate, no dissent, just domination masked as authority. And what does the Daily Trust tell us? That Akpabio surprised principal officers with his unilateral decision to recess, bypassing leadership consultations entirely. Now, some senators quietly warned that this isn't simply a clash of personalities. It's a symptom of a sole administrator approach, where coordination is absent totally, as one source says. And I'm going to quote that source there from Daily Trust. He said, quote, Akpabio is more like a sole administrator. He doesn't hold leadership meetings regularly. That is where the problem is, end quote. And if that specular was not enough, the plot even thickened further as the Senate went on to deny entry to Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduaghan, a female lawmaker, despite a court order confirming her right, her constitutional right. Akpoti had denied or dared to accuse Akpabio of sexual harassment. She dared to do this. Now, instead of a transparent inquiry that everyone has asked for, she was suspended, allegedly, for procedural infractions, not for the allegations, by the way, which were dismissed for technicalities. Now she is barred, her security withdrawn, her rights suspended. Now, this is not leadership. This is tyranny. This is a tyrant masquerading under the tonga of protocol. The question is, what kind of senator allows his female members to be silenced? What message does this send about women's participation in governance under this current administration? Is this the standard that has been set by President Bola Tinubu, that women who speak up are pushed aside, even in the highest legislative arena? Nigeria has always preached democracy, but here, power bullied representation. Nigeria has insisted on constitutional fair play, but here, in our own type of democracy that we've seen playing out on the theater of power, force substituted fairness is what we see. So let's call it what it is. It's an indictment on leadership as much as it is Tinubu's silence. If democracy is a dance, then Akpabio just tangoed solo and shoved anyone or everyone who tried to join him because, as that source says, it is a sole administrator. But before we drown into the power or the theater of power, let us pivot to those whose leadership lifts the nation, not crushes it, from the halls of arrogance to the field of merit, from suppression to soaring spirit, and across the sands of Rabat, in front of massive partisan crowds, our very own Super Falcons preyed upon early setbacks and delivered redemption. They surged to a 3-2 defeat against their host Morocco, but refused to bow. In the second half, Esther Okorokwo opened the door with a goal from the spot, and then it went on to Folashade, and for the equalizer, Jennifer Echijeni, she slammed through the winner in the 88th minute, and Nigeria had done it again, unmatched, undefeated, and in control. And so today, the 10th WAFCON title belongs to Nigeria. Woohoo! Celebrating not just football skill, but raw resilience that is only synonymous to us Nigerians. While our political institutions crumble under, ego and the depletion of women representation, these women gleefully have built Nigeria's sporting legacy. They continue to do so, flying the flag high While some are clinging to power, the Super Falcons are clinging to a belief and they're flying that flag. While autocrats are now shouting, they sing songs of unity, strength, and national pride. And to them we say congratulations. They have lifted more than a trophy. They have lifted us all into a space where the impossible becomes a routine. They show the world what Nigerian women can accomplish when they are free to compete. So as to every single one of them, to Aishat, Oshuala, to Rashidat Ajibade, who's a player of the tournament, to Chiamaka Ndo Dozier, who's also the goalkeeper of the tournament. We salute you all, ladies. Congratulations for turning adversary to artistry. We celebrate you. So today, Nigeria stands tall. Let the Senate witness this. Leadership is rooted in respect for your nation. Let the nation remember this, that women deserve their seat, not just at the table, but also at the podium. Because when we choose courage over cowardice, honor over hubris, the nation wins every time. Is, ain't that right?
Yes, indeed it is right, and I especially love that part about women deserving their respect, not just at the table, but at the podium. I can't say it better because it is fantastic that the Falcons, not Eagles this time, have brought Nigeria together once again. Falcons, I said Falcons, guys. 10
times.
Congratulations to us.
10 times, Mission X, and we did it.
It's grand. Well, I'll tell you something. It's a fantastic time to be alive right now, and we're all excited. However, have you seen how this has brought Nigeria, Africans together? And the opposite is playing out when it comes to the World Cup and America because of all the immigration laws being put in place. It's destroying football. But we'll talk about that when you get here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, everyone tuning in, let's get started for Breakfast Extra for a Sunday. Welcome aboard.
Good morning once again and welcome to Breakfast Extra, your trusted weekend companion bringing you the stories that matter, the voices, the challenge, and the champions we celebrate. We've got you power-packed show for this morning, so stay right here. We're going to begin with the big story, where it's been a week of reckoning and resistance. In Abuja, retired police officers took to the streets protesting the neglect and also poor gratuity that they're experiencing, and also pensions conditions. They've endured after all these years so much, and it's time for them to speak out. It's a sobering reminder that even those sworn to protect often find themselves abandoned. And in a related story of justice, the Federal High Court has ordered the Nigeria police to pay 10 million naira in damages to end SARS memorial protesters, a ruling that could reshape the conversation around protests and accountability in Nigeria. And we'll be unpacking both developments with human rights lawyer Justice Ejiana and also activist Oluwaseyi Akinde. Then on another big report, our correspondent Benedict Kiri, he takes us behind the bars of Kirikiri Medium Prison, where books are changing lives. It's a quiet but powerful story of rehabilitation through education. Plus, we'll hear from Fumi Ogunleye of a CELSIR on how these programs are reshaping justice and second chances. And still, for big story, the heat is on in Delta State, where the proposed creation of Warri State is causing major ethnic tension. While the Shekiri community is pushing for it, the Yoruba people are saying, no, we're not going to have this Mawaloho. Let me put that in there. What are the historic, political, and also cultural stakes here? We're going to find out. We'll get insight from Chief Sheriff Mulade of the CEPEJ, Patrick Doyle from the Shekiri Renaissance Group, and Wilson Omene, former Executive Chairman, Ethiop West Local Government Council. On Wellness Central, we're marking World IVF Day by highlighting a different path to parenthood. Now, we'll be joined by Oluwatosin Ogunyemi, Senior Clinical Embryologist and CEO of Prof Consult International, to explore the science, the stigma, and the stories behind IVF in Africa. So, welcome once again to Breakfast Extra. Judith, thank you very much for welcoming me in from the monologue, fantastic monologue. I'll tell you something about Akpabio, however. Yeah. There is a constitution. The Senate has its constitution.
Okay.
Now, this constitution, and I'm not holding brief for the Senate president, because perhaps maybe the way he's handled the Akpoti Oduaghan instance has been maybe flawed from the beginning. But on this count, I believe that if you break protocol on constitution here, you're going to break protocol on every other thing that makes the Senate the Senate. Right. So while his treatment or the general view or perception of the treatment of Natasha might be flawed, when it comes to the instance of a constitution that has been put in place, I believe that he's following protocol correctly. But it doesn't mean that he hasn't used it in his advantage. That's my take.
Well, interesting that you say that, because when you read the article by Daily Trust, which is very interesting, most of the senators who spoke to, that their sources, they chose to be anonymous. And what was very interesting about their description of him was one who, at the end of the day, would reside on his own decision instead of that of the members of either consultative or minority leaders or leaders of the Senate, which all make a particular committee that is supposed to have more like a say when it comes to procedure. So when you say about procedural, that he follows Constitution, it's very interesting that those persons in that article said otherwise, that he seemed to be, but he's not. And what they described him with 3 words: he was authoritarian, he was tyrannical, and one even threatened to resign. And that is concerning because one of the, which again, I don't know if this source is true, but it was one of another article that said that there was a shouting match in that episode. And he went on to say, how dare he talk to me? Shut your mouth. I was once a sitting governor, I was once a sitting this, I was once a sitting that, and you don't know the law better than I do. So it's very interesting. I don't necessarily think this has nothing to do with Senator Natasha Akpotho-Aduana. This is more to do with a particular man and his character and how he's played out in the public. And what's interesting is that if the courts have said that she is supposed to be back and continue to represent her people, and that she's not supposed to sit out, and that whatever is going on with the Senate can happen on the sidelines as she continues to serve and represent her people, then why not obey the courts? If you're saying that, why not obey the courts? If you're saying that, that was not necessarily a judgment, they just gave an advice, but then shouldn't you listen? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, this is democracy and it's about the people. The entirety of Kogi State, or the parts that she represents, are not being represented at the Senate. Now they've gone on recess. Well, hang on. Now they've gone on recess and they're not coming back. They're not coming back until September. That means for 6 months, because when you calculate their calendar, for half a year, they sit in the Senate. So for 6 months, she's going to be out not representing her people.
Exactly.
So laws are being made, decisions are being made on a national level, and a particular set of the people are not being represented, and that is an issue, right? So I don't think it's about her. I think it's about democracy, representation, but most importantly, character and morals. That's
You're
what I see
absolutely
it as.
correct. It's not about her. It's about the law. It's about Constitution, and that's what he's following currently.
I don't think
before, maybe not. But then again, yes, everything leads to her not serving her the required amount of time for a senator to be actually sitting. So I get where you're coming from. But congratulations to the Eagles, the Falcons. Let's not forget that. We'll be talking plenty about them this morning. But tell you what we're going to do. Let's get ready the papers for this morning, if I'm not mistaken. Hang on a second. I'm being told that we're not doing the papers
yet.
So let's already go into our first big report. Now, on this weekend's edition of Breakfast Extra, our very first big report comes to you. We'll begin a story that's drawing attention to a long-running grievance in Nigeria's security sector, the treatment of retired police officers. Now, this week, or rather last week, scenes of retired officers, civil rights activists, and widows of fallen policemen barricading the gates of the Nigeria Police Force headquarters in Abuja sparked national conversation under the trending hashtag #PoliceProtest. Their demands justice, dignity, and most critically, their unpaid pension and gratuities. Many allege they've been abandoned after decades of service, citing poor welfare packages, internal extortion, and what some called slavery-like working conditions during active duty. So our correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, monitored the protest and brought back this report.
Placards in hand and chanting songs for reform, The demonstrators say they will no longer keep quiet about their plight.
If the government feel my job for 35 years is not appreciated, whatever I contributed while serving, give me my money.
Among the key demands are prompt payment of pension, improved welfare packages, justice for officers allegedly detained without trial, and a total overhaul of internal policing culture. The protest was largely peaceful, but emotions are running high as many shared personal stories of hardship.
I am not happy. I am pushed to the world. Are you hearing me? I have children that I'm supposed to put further, but I cannot go home because of the mega things that is given to me on monthly basis. For the past 1 year, I have not received 10 kobo, and I have worked for this country. I have used all my useful age, useful bone, whatever I want to talk, to work for this country, and after that, nothing was given to me. Then I need to force out.
Organizers say this is only the beginning of a national push to hold authorities accountable for the lives and livelihoods of Nigeria's law enforcement community.
Did we come here to come and drink water? Any one of now, we go betray on ourselves. When I know, say, now in our life, you can see policemen are suffering. There's nowhere in Africa, I'm not even talking about the world, where police are treated the way Nigerian policemen are treated. How can somebody serve the country for 35 years, and after serving the country for 35 years, he lives with 1.5 million naira? Is that not equivalent to almost killing him and taking away the important part of his life? Look at the politicians in the National Assembly. They practically do nothing except stealing. But every month, they earn between 30 million to 50 million.
Here we are in the front of the force headquarters here in Abuja. Just right beside me, of course, are the police officers who have barricaded the entrance, preventing any form of protesters or members of the protesters, any access to the force headquarters. And here we are on the other hand, the protesters stating that they are going to defy any odds, no matter what the situation is, to ensure that their demands, that their cries are heard. It is then expected that as soon as possible, the Inspector General of Police and the Nigerian government intervenes to ensure that the much needed welfare packages that these retirees are demanding for are met. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Brown.
So joining us now to unpack the unfolding developments is our correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, who monitored the protest from the force headquarters in Abuja. Sagir, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Peter. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, just good morning. Thank you once again for joining us this morning, also from yesterday. You were at the force headquarters when the protest happened. I want you to walk us through the mood and just the message of the demonstrators. What exactly were they demanding, and did they were there any representative from the headquarters to meet their demands or dialogue with them?
Thank you for that question, Judith. From the point that I was standing, I saw a situation where serving police officers and retired police officers were caught between a poetic situation where one didn't know what to do about the other. These are retired police officers saying, we need the Inspector General of Police to hear our voice and hear our cries. Because we're not being treated the way we ought to be treated. Most of the police officers, retired police officers who made up the protests were basically from the ranks of chief superintendents of police down to privates and constables and the likes of that. Maybe those who traveled through the ranks, but they did not exceed chief superintendent of police. This tells you the situation for police officers within the junior rank. Now, there are also, on the other hand, serving police officers who are watching those who are already ahead of them retire and coming back to complain. And in their minds, I only imagine what would have been going on, seeing what some would describe as their future in a few years. And this was the situation on the ground that day. It was quite difficult for even the police officers who were serving and who wanted to stop them from going in or pushing their demands, to hold them back as much as they would, should it be a regular protest like we saw them do during the EndSARS. And this, on the other hand, kind of shows the situation and the need, without any explanation, why it's important to improve the welfare of our police officers. It cannot be overemphasized. Now, these guys came out with the demand, remove us from the contributory pension scheme because it's not doing us any good. Some complained of not receiving a penny for over a year and a year plus. And whenever the money comes, it's not like it's so much. They receive around between 30 to 40,000 naira, depending on the ranks that they retired from. And they are complaining, it's already paltry. Yet you take a year before you pay us this money or so. Delays, sometimes you don't even know when it's going to come. And there are demands that just have to be met. Some of them are still the breadwinners of their families. They still have to provide for their families. You heard the complaint of one who said he can no longer even go home because the demands are so much. He has already sacrificed all of his youthful years to the police, and he's retired. There's not much in terms of what he can do, and there's not much in terms of the resources that he has to provide. And this goes on and on and on and on and on. And then they're left with no choice. If I can't be of use to myself after giving 35 years to the police, and I cannot get a job to do outside of the police, then I have to cry back to the police and tell them to do right by me. So the police itself does not look bad in the eyes of young up-and-coming Nigerians who would want to join law enforcement. Seeing them on the streets like this, demanding and insisting that they be treated better, is an indictment on the system. And that was what played out that day.
It's very interesting, especially that you told about the dynamic between the serving police and the police who are actually protesting. And that, for me, is the biggest concern. Well, not concern, I'm just very curious as to the conduct of the police while they were trying to, well, I don't know what the word is, manage this protest. Because from history, we see the function of the police when it comes to ordinary protests, end SARS, end bad governance. We saw how they interacted with the protesters. So I really want you to emphasize exactly how this interaction happened between the police and the police. Did they forcefully hold them back? Did they permit them? Was it a permissive type of protest? What exactly, if you were to compare their usual conduct with what you saw during this process, what would you, or protest rather, how would you describe it?
I like how you put him as, the police and the police. Well, the police did nothing to the police. As a matter of fact, they were there to carry out the usual responsibility, what it ought to be the responsibility of the police around protest and demonstration. Observe without interference. That was what they did. They were there to observe. There were boundaries that they shouldn't push beyond. They were there to barricade that boundary, and they explained to them, please, look, please, don't just cross here. We're not saying we should not demonstrate. Go ahead and demonstrate, but don't cross here. Interestingly, considering that it's the force headquarters, imagine it was a group of young Nigerians protesting or demanding something. One would describe the situation as one that maybe the Nigerian police would have used a little bit of more force to push back. But they allowed them to get right to the foot of the gate, demanding that they see the Inspector General of Police. And I must even add, at a point, my cameraman had his battery was depleted, and we need to quickly get him a spare. And while we were in the process of doing that, we saw some other police officers, 7 by the way, who were saying, if you are coming back, come with more people, come with more people. This is important. They need to address it. So yes, they know that this affects them directly. And they really, really wanted to see their elders and their seniors push it through. And this is also another pointer. And they need to improve, the welfare of those that are serving too, because it really, I really cannot imagine the psyche and the psychology right now of serving police officers who see these guys and who know in their minds, some of them, that this is definitely what I may be falling back to in the next few years. It begins to make retirement look like a nightmare for these police officers. And I believe we understand what can happen if someone who has this in mind is in law enforcement and is licensed to carry arms. I mean, this is a situation where we really, really just have to do right by our law enforcement agents.
If the Nigerian police was to engage regular protesters the way that they engaged the police at this protest, do you think that we would see a change when it comes to how the government addresses dissent in Nigeria, and how effective would that dissent be then?
Well, I mean, it would be a step in the right direction, but it really would be, because we saw the NSAS protest in some parts of the country. It really wasn't as bad as it later became, subsequently. So the Nigerian police can be friendly. They are friendly, as a matter of fact. And of course, I'm no representative of them. But then, I myself have seen situations where they've been of great help. Like they would continue to say, there are bad eggs among them. We should try to point out those who are bad. But then the process that it takes for disciplinary measures and sanctions to be meted on those who are described as bad eggs has continued to be the reason why most Nigerians would not trust or would say they have a trust deficit of the police of some sort. So this also pushes us back to the cause for, a need to refine the internal mechanisms of the police to ensure that if there are situations where the bad eggs are seeming to be the one that's pushing the bad narratives, they should also be seen, to be dealt with severely so that it serves as a deterrent to everyone and Nigerians can see that those who have done them wrong, because for whatever reason, have also, received justice or have seen the eye of the law in one way or the other.
Away from protests, let's look at the security sector just holistically. Wealth and accountability has been a big challenge for them, right? One of the demands of the NSAS protest was the improvement of welfare for Nigerian security, whether it was the army and the police, and we saw how that ended. But with this protest, have there been any response from the IGP or any other high-ranking security official regarding their demands? Because this will just be another protest that will most likely fizzle out, and that will be the end of it.
And this is the reason why, one of the reasons why Omoyele Sowore, who was one of those who led the protesters there, mentioned that they expected that the Inspector General of Police comes outside of the building and addresses them directly. At some point during the demonstration, some officers had come to announce that the Inspector General of Police was willing to see the protesting officers, but inside of the force headquarters, in an auditorium. But the likes of Sowore and human rights lawyer Bijadi Onju insisted they will not be, as a matter of fact, going inside to drink water and soda, as they described it, just for them to be given another promise. And they mentioned to the officers, if you want to go inside and go and see him, you are betraying the reason why we are here. It is not us that will go in and see him. It is him that will come down and address us. But I think subsequently, some of them, some of the retired officers went in to meet with the Inspector General of Police. He then, tried to calm them down and told them that the issue was really under, it was being addressed, and soon they would begin to see positive responses from the part of the police. But I mean, Dele Sowore and the others are saying they were not a part of that. They do not understand the reason why he would continue to give those promises. And they have insisted that if their demands are not met, the federal government and Nigerians perhaps will witness another August protest, the End Bad Governance protest, which happened last year. We might most likely see a repeat of that this year. Dele Sowore's words.
So Omoyele Sowore was a very big part of this protest. He actually fought for the Nigerian police. He also claimed that he had some items stolen from him even at that protest. However, Kayode Egbetokun, the IGP of the Nigerian police, did come out to say that the grievances of the Nigerian police are being addressed. Now, if they are being addressed, exactly in what form would this address be? Would it be more money or more severance, a better severance package for the that's already retired police? What would it be like, the anatomy of this redress?
It would be in the form of removing these retired police officers from the contributory, the national pension scheme as it is, because they complain that just from the ranks of Commissioner of Police downwards are those who were added to the contributory pension scheme, and AIGs and DIGs are not a member of that. So it has created some kind of dichotomy first, and then secondly, they feel this is the reason why their payments has been continually delayed. Another would be the improvement of their welfare. Now, they understand already that they are retired and their pensions allocated to them was done on a contributory basis. So some of them are walking away with 1.7 million, between 1.7 to 3.5 million, depending on the ranks in total. So they know that there might be nothing they would be able to do to increase that, but it doesn't stop the Nigerian police and the federal government, from engaging them in terms of skill acquisition and other forms of empowerment that will keep them active and keep them seeing more inflow of liquidity while, they are retired from the force. They are described as, in other countries where whether it's the police or the army or any member of the armed forces, they've got specialized hospitals, they've got, specialized facilities just for them that they can go get treated in terms of, in the cases of emergency, and they can return. They are saying these are not things that they are enjoying as retired police officers. In fact, they, in spite of the fact that they are not enjoying anything, still have to beg for their pension payments to be made to them. So these are some of the ways that if issues, like you said, are addressed, will impact the lives of the retired police officers. And except that is the case, then, it means we're just having a discussion, just like that's always been.
We also saw this protest, and on not just at the federal level, but also at the state level. With we saw the protest scenes in Jos, Plateau State, where we had Chizobanyo, we were covering it, and that just shows you the level of how the welfare across board is just really bad. I want you to talk about the transparency issue that bedevils the security agency. Particularly, there was a report that we had earlier about a probe that some civil societies came out to ask the ICPC and anti-graft agencies probe the IGP regarding a 60 million naira lump sum amount regarding housing accommodation and barracks facilities for the police, and how that has just gone under the radar. Let's talk about transparency in and of itself and accountability. What do you think can be done to ensure that, because there are allocations that they get monthly and yearly and annually, how is that being implemented?
Well, Judith, of course, it's a question that begs answers. I'm not an expert in terms of this, but I would say, just like always, transparency will always be an issue. Strengthening mechanisms within the ranks would definitely do well to ensure that they get what is due to them. And if that is not done, we continue to see the situation be what it is. So, and of course, I might add as well to mention that the reform of the Nigerian police is also, it forms part of what the current constitution review captures. The need to reform the Nigerian police, the need to reform the judiciary, among many other structures and infrastructure in the country. So we are hoping that if that also sees the light of day, maybe the police might get the much needed reforms to ensure that all and sundry, the rank and file in the Nigerian police force, benefit from this and see an improvement in the quality of their life and their welfare generally across board. That's what I hope, and that's what I pray.
While you're enjoying your recess from the Nigerian Senate, well, I guess you can chase the Nigerian police. Thank you very much for always being on Breakfast Extra. Always a pleasure having you and chatting with you on the show. Now, coming up, we've still got more inside the first hour for Breakfast Extra. Do stay tuned. We'll be back.
You're welcome. Let's get started with our big story this morning as we revisit a defining movement in Nigeria's civic landscape. #NSAS. It's been nearly 5 years since the nationwide protests against police brutality that swept across the country, culminating in one of the most intense citizen-led demands for accountability Nigeria has ever seen. Now, this week, a federal high court in Lagos ruled in favor of justice, ordering the Nigerian police to pay 10 million naira in damages to protesters who were arrested and brutalized during the October 2024 NSAS Memorial Rally at Lekki Toll Gate.
So the court held that the arrest and torture of the protesters was a violation of their fundamental human rights, reaffirming that peaceful protest remains a constitutional right, not a criminal offense. So what does this judgment mean for justice, memory, and the future of civic engagements in Nigeria? Well, joining us now to unpack the legal, political, and symbolic weight of this ruling is Mr. Justice Ejono, who is a human rights lawyer. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
It is my pleasure to join you. It's great to see you.
Great to have you.
Judith, please.
Oh, I mean, Justice, I must say 10 million naira. But if there's one thing that we know about the Nigerian government is our obedience to court ruling. How do you see this playing out?
Oh, I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from. Nice. Judith, nice. Nice. Beautiful.
Okay, from that angle, I think it is compulsory for them this time to actually obey the court's judgment.
Not
if they are not,
dictum.
This is not obiter. This is very, very straight. And I feel that they have no option than to obey it. If they are not appealing it, you know, they have the challenge of appealing issues to the Hill, to the Court of Appeal, to the Supreme Court, which I think is unfortunate, and we can have that discussion on another day. But there is a certain section 84 of the Sheriffs and Civil Processes Act that talks about the fact that if there is a judgment sum against the government, for example, against the police, then the Attorney General still has the right and power to check whether they want to pay it or not. But I'm very, very happy that the court recently overruled that provisions of Section 84, because once a judgment is given against an authority, whether it's the customs, whether it's the EFCC, whether it's the police, if we have to leave it to the Attorney General to decide whether they want to pay or not, then the Attorney General may exercise his discretion not to pay. And that will thwart the power of enforcement of the court. We can't leave discretion to the person that the judgment is against. So that absurd situation was cured, I think, late last year or early this year. So with this, if enforcement is proceeded against, they will pay. They will have to pay.
I have a little concern about the amount. However, to clarify, this is 10 million for the general group or 10 million each?
No, it's for the general group.
General group. So that's a 10 million. It's like,
I use not much, but appeal. It's not much, but let me tell you some of the things that I'm particularly personally happy that this
Just a second before you hold that thought, let me welcome, we have joining us now, Oluwaseyi Akinde, member and Bad Governance, Lagos Congress. Oluwaseyi, you're welcome. We'll be coming to you in a minute, but let Justice finish his thought. Justice.
Oh, fantastic. I'm even happy that you have Professor Sheyi here.
Professor.
We always meet on the grounds. And in fact, on that fateful day when they were practically abused and arrested, I was one of the lawyers that got there first to be able to see exactly what happened. I may have to leave exactly what happened to them, but legally significant is the fact that at least protesters, it is re-emphasized again to the government and the police that protesters have a right to peaceful protest in Nigeria.
You were about to tell about the significance of the payment. I was telling that it was rather little.
Okay, no. Okay, for me, the fact that there's even a judgment against them, these protesters are not exactly looking for money. Despite the fact that what happened on that day was very, very unfortunate. The part that pained me the most was that they were groped. They put female police officers, they deliberately used Gestapo style, they covered their face so that people are not easily able to identify them. They were groped, they were bastardized. Every wrong thing on the face of the earth was done to them. I'm significantly happy that at least monetary damages were laid against them, and there were court pronouncements again reaffirming the position of protesters. And another thing that I'm extremely happy about was there was a judgment that was procured by the Lagos State government very close to the August 1st hunger protest. And that judgment says that people can only protest in Lagos in two places, the Ganifa Park and one other park on the island. And this court particularly said that you cannot extend that judgment perpetually and forever to cover all protests in Lagos. So now that we have a court judgment saying that people have a right to protest anywhere in Lagos, not restricted to those two places, I feel that these are some of the additional wins that this judgment actually procures for the average Nigerian.
Let me come to you, Oluwaseyi Akinde. Many thanks again for joining us. Now, you were part of the 2020 and the 2024 NSAS commemorations and remain an active voice in the End Bad Governance movement. I must say, how, first of all, your members of the movement, how are they interpreting this court ruling? And most importantly, what happened on that day? And do you think that this ruling sort of would appease the injustices that the members of your team faced on that day?
Oh,
Fortunately, we lost him there.
we'll get him back, I'm sure, Oluwaseyi. Please do try to rejoin.
You're talking about just what this will set in terms of precedents for future protests. But again, back to the first question about, look, I'm sorry I'm hounding on this, right? But we've seen this over and over again. I mean, should protests really be restricted in the first place? What exactly is protest? It's the same thing that happened in 2023 as regarding, 27 states and the FCT. We saw how everyone has started interpreting what the law is and what it ought to be. And so I do have to ask about, just precedents and it being set with this ruling. You said it's important and significant and it would move forward in terms of dissent and protests in Nigeria. But would the Nigerian government be fair? Would the security agencies be fair? Would this also set them right to know that they're not supposed to group protesters and not supposed to use, and they're supposed to use anti-riot equipment and not live rounds ammunition? Your take? Okay,
for me, I think that this, to a large extent, since it has brought it again back to the front burner, and since it's a chastisement, you need to read the judgment or the reportage on the judgment. It's a direct chastisement on the Nigerian police. It's very, very unfortunate that Professor is not talking on this point in order to corroborate all the things I'm saying. It was very, very bad. Azan Taiwo Soweto, who is one of the applicants in this case, his clothes were torn on that day. They beat people up. And what did these people want to go and do? They said they just needed to lay a wreath in commemoration. Is the Nigerian government saying that the people that died in NSAS that didn't happen?
No, they don't deserve respect.
That they don't deserve, even though they eventually ate their vomit in a manner of speaking and constituted a tribunal that looked into it and saw that there were deaths, there were injuries. Aside that, there was an ECOWAS court judgment that also asserted that these wrongs actually were committed against the Nigerian youth.
Selective amnesia.
So are you now saying they shouldn't lay wreath? So why did you go very, very unprofessionally? And on the facts of that day, what the protesters asked the authorities that before on ground was that, can you please identify the people that did this to us and discipline them? If you do that, we won't escalate. That was the pact that the protesters were willing to even have. They were not asking. In fact, some of there are things that were stolen. The police offered to buy it back for them. They said, no, we are not in this for the money. Can you please identify the people? Yeah, we know you deliberately covered their face and you were out to practically hound us down to ensure that this doesn't, we don't get the courage to come and exercise our constitutional right. But we will not back down until you isolate those officers and deal with them according to law. You are an emblem of the law. You are a totem of the law. Deal with them. If you deal with them, we will not escalate this further. Then, of course, the authority or the police at the time said, no problems, we'll deal with them. We'll deal with them in 1 week's time. And that didn't happen. That's the major reason why this matter got escalated to the court. With respect to whether they will abide by it or not, these people will not back down. I know them. They are Luther Continua people. They are fighters. They defy the police, even with barrels of the gun.
We have one of them back here with us. Oluwaseyi Akinde is back online with us. To keep it short, I'd like to know what you thought about the details of the court ruling and how it will affect future endeavors by protesters. Ms. Akinde. Well, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. You might want to check that device if it's muted. There you are. We're still having issues with your audio. Okay, go ahead. Yes, better. Go ahead.
I said, good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, you in the studio, and good morning to one of our lawyers who is a soldier of democracy. The judgment came to us.
Very sorry, Mr. Akinde. We'll have to get back to you after we sorted your audio out because it is rather choppy. But I'm going to come to you with another question. Now, we've just had the police protest, #police protest, of which Mr. Omoyele Sowore was a very big part of it. We saw the police actually this time were the ones who were protesting. Along with them were the police who were also trying to manage the situation. We saw their conduct, very different. We have spoken to our correspondent this morning, Sergey Ibrahim, who was there to see and tell us exactly how the police were actually doing what the police were supposed to do as regard protests. Now, when you look at the two instances, what comes to mind for you regarding the conduct of the Nigerian police, whether it's something that can be salvaged, or do they have to be involved for them to behave?
It's a pyramid.
Okay, for me, I think that maybe the authorities of the police saw that they may suffer a mutiny if they try to use the police presently in force to do what they do with them against irregular protesters.
Worst case scenario.
Yeah,
what could the worst case scenario be if they did that? Is my point.
There will be an end to government. If there is no structure, if nobody can order another person to take particular actions, including authorities, if they cannot order their juniors or their subordinates to take particular actions, that will be an end to government. And the police, the present police officers know that they can see their future in those protesters. They can see that in a number of years they will be changing saddles. So you don't make an order to police officers to do that because they stand a chance of practically disobeying you. And once they disobey you, if the president as the commander-in-chief pursuant to section 130 of our constitution cannot direct the chief of army staff to take a particular action, or the chief of army staff cannot direct a particular battalion to take a particular action, or if the IG cannot direct his police officers to take particular actions, that will be an end to government. So it's a careful needle that they have to tread. They were treading with extreme caution because they stand a chance of being outrightly disobeyed. And if they are disobeyed, Nigeria is we are back to the oppressive state of nature as sadly painted by Thomas Hobbes, where we are back to where might is right and life is nasty, silly, brutish, and short. So that's a major reason why I don't think they gave those directives. It could not have been given. But for the regular protesters, it is always given. I'm not saying it because I'm in the room. I'm saying it because their actions say it. Just talk about a protest now that you want to organize a protest. If even it is 3-4 people, you will see, especially in Lagos, the outsized number of force, show of force. The police officers on ground, a lot of times, sometimes can even outnumber the protesters. The kind of anti-riot, anti all the gears that they bring forth, including helicopters. It is why are we not exercising such a fear or such a show of force with respect to the people who are actually terrorizing this country? In some parts of Nigeria, practically almost without the presence of government, but in some other parts where it is not supposed to be at all, we see an outsized show of force. So these are some of the things that we think that as much as possible, the Nigerian government generally, and I'm not restricting it to the police, the Nigerian law enforcement generally, they should recalibrate and choose their priorities. If they govern the society right, we'll have less protests, less reactions, and we won't even have protests at all, because the people who are making these demands are asking for the irreducible minimum that a human being deserves in a civil and civilized society.
What I find very interesting is that the type of protest I want to see it evolve in Nigeria. I want to see less placards and more red paints and manures on the road, like the way they do in France. And anyway, let's switch guests now. We understand that Oluwaseyi is live on Zoom. Oluwaseyi, are you with us now? Can you hear us? Let's test your audio to see if you're good.
We still can't hear you.
We still can't hear you.
Perhaps you're muted? There you are.
We are having issues. We'll try to bring you back on, Sheyi, for subsequent conversations regarding this. Because, I mean, when you look at it, August 1st around the corner, and that was last year around that time was the beginning of the End Bad Governance protest, which lasted for 10 days. And we saw how that, dissolved. And we also, October 20th is also around the corner as well. And it's going to be 5-year anniversary for #EndSARS.
These holidays now. I mean,
I got tabs, baby. I got tabs. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to. So today's we're looking forward to EndSARS. The EndSARS protest will commemorate 5 days, October 20th. Do you think that this ruling will have any kind of implication, or this judgment will have any implication on how the police will conduct themselves, especially at their favorite spot, like you told me,
and especially noticing that they've also tasted what protests or real protests should be?
Yes. For me, I pray that it sways them. There's no lack of sufficient number of judgments of the court that they have not been furnished with, but they are still recalcitrant, and they still show up with this exact scorecard on this issue. Well, maybe with this one, I will advise the organizers of the protests to furnish them with an abundant number of copies of this certified true copy of the judgment of the court. It should be sufficient. They should probably produce like 100 copies and send it to all the police, all the significant officers of the Nigerian police force, so that they don't feign ignorance, so that the next time the protesters step out, they will not say they do not know what the position of the law is.
I have a very interesting scenario here, Justice. Now, the IGP has told that the police protest, that they will address the matters that were raised at the police protest. How much pressure do you think the IGP is under to make sure that the police are satisfied with whatever demands they're making, especially when you note the dates that Judith has just mentioned and that there might be similar protests coming? How much pressure do you think is under to service the demands so that the police are under control? Otherwise, worst case scenario, like you said, if another protest comes and the police feel aggrieved themselves still.
The end of government. So I think it's under immense pressure, and that is why it is of extreme importance that people come out to protest. You see the demands that they are now taking very, very seriously now. It has always been on the table for years. So if there was no public outcry, if there was no protest that everybody could see, it won't be under any form of pressure, because sometimes these are the kind of people that we have in authority. Until there is a breakout, until there is something of an embarrassing nature, maybe on the local stage or on the world stage, that is when they feign taking action, even though they don't still think that they are taking actions. But it is very, very important that we always come out to exhibit our grievance towards whatever actions or inactions any form of authority, law enforcement, or government is taking. So I feel that it's under tremendous pressure, and they should always come out from time to time in order for him or them, or if he's saying he's not the only person taking the action, to actually do something about it. Because if we don't move the hands of these people, they will not take action. And under no condition should the IGP be telling us that government does not have an answer or government does not have a solution. They should stop perpetually telling us that it's still in the works, it's still in the process, just exercise some patience, give us more time. Those people that are in very, very terrible, poor conditions, they have been giving patients, they have been dishing patients, they die in patients, and they are probably going to be dying in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 decades if we don't have great leaders. They are perpetually going to be dying in patients. So this is not a time for patience. Like Martin Luther King said, the time is always right to do the right things. So I feel that the Nigerian government can actually solve that problem if they decide to.
I used to think it was, anyway, moving on. That quote, I always said it was Malcolm X, which realized it was Luther King. Don't mind me, my brain does
Either you're wrong or he's wrong.
No, he's right. I was wrong the whole time. But from a legal standpoint, as we wrap up this conversation, if the Nigerian police doesn't obey or doesn't comply with this judgment, what legal redress, what legal options are available to enforce this judgment for the part of the victims?
2 ways. In fact, let me even focus on the major way because the second one may be a bit more technical. There's a law of contempt in Nigeria. So all the parties that have been cited and ordered to actually make those payments, including Nigerian Police Force, as ably represented by the Inspector General of Police and the Commissioner of Police of Lagos State, they can be cited for contempt, and nobody is above the law. So if, except for, it's only four categories of persons that may not be instantly held for contempt in Nigeria, and that's pursuant to Section 308 of our Constitution, the President, the Vice President, the Governor, and the Deputy Governor in all parts of Nigeria. But if you don't fall in those categories immediately, if you do not carry out the judgment of the court, you can be held in contempt, you can be told to pay a particular amount, or you can actually be in prison. So
there's no freezing of accounts in this option.
No. That too can actually be done. That was the second. And I think I also mentioned it earlier in the conversation when I talked about Section 84 of the Sheriffs and Civil Process Act and things like that.
My final question, Justice, would be whether the police will get justice, or rather whether the NBAS governors group have gotten justice, a play on your name, and if the conduct of the Nigerian police will change henceforth when it comes to protests in Nigeria, do you think?
Okay, for me, as for justice, I would say they've gotten a win. I won't even think that the amount is enough, given some of the things that I saw that happened to some of them. But it's still something in the bag. Yeah, I'd rather take it than nothing else. So that's for the protesters. But as for the police, whether it will change their ways, I pray and hope so. That's what I can say about the Nigerian police and the Nigerian situation, especially also the Nigerian government, because it looks like it is who gives them the order that they listen to and they try to carry out. They forget about the provisions of the law. Some of them, they are high enough in the ranks to actually take oaths pursuant to the Constitution, to abide by the provisions of the Constitution. But at the end of the day, they do not abide by the provisions of the Constitution. If even you didn't take an oath, the laws are a plethora of cases too. Section 40, Section 39, Section 41, Section 42 actually gives the average Nigerian this power. The case of Warri and INEC in particular, Justice Ajile JCA went out on a limb to say that the police, they have to ensure that they protect Nigerians during those protests. They are not to prevent Nigerians from protesting, and Nigerians don't need permission from the police before they proceed on protest. So we don't do all the 24 hours before a protest, you start seeing police officers or law enforcement generally saying that they have intelligence report, If I even want to stay in front of my house to protest, next thing you hear the commissioner of police or the IGP saying they have intelligence report that I shouldn't protest in front of my house. All those things should be to an end. The day the police cannot protect the average Nigerian, including the average Nigerian protesters, they have lost it. It means they are no longer worthy to be called the Nigerian police, as they are empowered in Section 204 and 215 of our Constitution. So I feel that a lot, I just have to circle back to I hope and pray.
Oh, Justice Ejiono, thank you very much for
coming
through and for coming with us in the studio. We also hope and pray that there is some sort of, redress when it comes to how protests are handled in Nigeria henceforth. That will be my prayer because, hey.
Anyway, I would always just say that if they don't want you to protest, just bring out pots and pan and just clang them from your windows.
Ding, ding,
you know what I mean? French. 1813. During the fall of what's her name now? Just hit your pans and shout, "Revolutionnaire, revolutionnaire." We'll be right back. Stay with us. It's time for us to bring you breakfast headlines here on Breakfast Extra. I am Judith Atibi. We begin with politics as leaders, lawyers, activists, and other stakeholders in the country have demanded a constitutional amendment that precludes the executive arm of the government, the president, from controlling the judiciary and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for free, fair, and dependable elections in 2027. Accusing the judiciary of selling judgments to the highest bidder and the INEC of declaring phony results, they also called for a far-reaching restructuring of both the judiciary and INEC. Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Center for Human Rights and Anti-Corruption Crusade, Cleric Alaoui, stated the clamor for free and fair elections in the country requires institutional reforms. In the meantime, Minister of Works David Umahi has criticized former Kano State Governor and presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, that's Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, for alleging that President Bola Tinubu's administration is neglecting the North in its infrastructure development. Umahi described Kwankwaso's claims as absolutely false, misleading, and self-serving. He said the remarks were aimed at deceiving Northerners and stirring unnecessary regional sentiment. Kwankwaso had earlier accused President Tinubu of concentrating federal road projects in the south while allegedly sidelining the north, especially the northwest region. The comment sparked reactions from the presidency, which dismissed it as divisive and inaccurate. The European Union has expressed hope that with available resources on the ground and measures put in place, people of diverse socio-cultural differences can coexist peacefully. One of these measures in the inclusive religious engagement in Nigeria, enhanced by Women Code named I Renew. News Central's Chizoba Aniwe tells us more in this report.
According to the European Union in Nigeria, many recorded deaths stem from violence of various sorts. This is the reason behind this EU intervention through the implementation by search for common ground.
It is possible to live in peace. It is possible for all, regardless of your religion, regardless of your ethnic group, regardless of where you come from, whether you're a farmer, whether you're a herder, or any other activity, that there is space for everybody to live peacefully and that resources can be shared for the benefit of all. This is what we're trying to promote. We do this because we believe in Nigeria. We invest in Nigeria because we believe that Nigeria has a lot of potential and can find its own solutions to address the conflict dynamics.
Prior to I Renew, women and youths were not actively involved, and even as an organization, while we had done a lot in promoting freedom of religion and beliefs, we were working mainly with religious leaders who were male-dominated. And we saw that gap in inclusion of women and youths. We also saw the gap in policy influencing, and these were the factors that inspired the design of our Renew project, which has come to stay. And we are hopeful that the beneficiaries have shown strong capacity and willingness to take on the gains after the project officially ends.
For these stakeholders from Kaduna and Plateau states, interreligious dialogue and communal living remain a major tool for peaceful coexistence and socio-cultural cohesion.
If you have the passion to make sure there is peace in your country or in your state, you just have to continue with it. We can collaborate and can adopt a few things to do it together as one. I've also moved from generalizing issues when it comes to freedom of religion or belief to dealing with a particular person, most especially people who violate people's rights when it comes to freedom of religion or belief.
As the 30-month program of I Renew ends at the organization's knowledge sharing and closeout event here, sustainability of lessons learned by these participants and benefiting communities in Kaduna and Plateau states remains paramount. In Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Anyoe.
And off to Abia State, where victims of a collapsed three-story building in Umuahia are currently receiving medical attention in a health facility in the city. A woman, Ngozi Ogu, and her two daughters narrowly escaped death due to the timely intervention of her neighbors on Road 2, low-cost housing estate Umuahia. News Center's Chinwe Ugeli was there and now reports.
The uncompleted building, which is one out of the three structures in one compound, did not injure anyone living within it, but wreaked havoc in another house. Security guard of the collapsed structure, Babaya Adamu, says the building had shown signs of cracks in the past.
There was time it showed signs, but they took a serious measure at that time. The owner of the building, same engineer, they come and check. They bring cement and gravel and work it. That's why it was the same time they even filled this thing.
Ngozi Gochukwu lives with her family directly behind the three-story building that collapsed early Saturday morning. According to her, a strange sound woke her up, but she couldn't escape before her entire family was nearly buried in the rubble.
So much military is a rush again. So I come with again. A blue room. Baby man, 18, can 18, man, 80. 80. At this doctor go did the newborn baby because the thing did too much there.
She is still in pains from the weight of bricks that fell on her, but grateful that her neighbors were able to rescue her and her daughters, including a 5-month-old.
After 2 block.
Dr. Gad Ozaga, the chief medical director of the hospital where the victims were taken to, explains that the victims were being observed to ensure they are totally fine.
No physical injuries, they are in pain. They have back pain, the blunt trauma, but no, the bone is not broken, no laceration. They are in the abdomen, there is no sign for now that they are inside.
Abia State government has since sealed the property and evicted all occupants of the uncompleted building, pending the conclusion of an integrity test on the remaining structures.
A notice has been put on this building, to suspend and stop further construction. And what happened for us, we are going to conduct a detailed investigation to identify what must have caused the collapse of this property.
Also, the government has ordered for the transfer of the victims to a government facility for proper check. In Umuahia, for News Central, Chinwe Ugeli.
Many thanks to Chinwe Ugeli for that report. And that's all we can take on Breakfast Headlines at this hour. Join us at 10 o'clock for more bulletin. I'm Judith at TV. It's back to Breakfast Extra. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Conversations Inside of Breakfast Extra. Now, last week, we're turning our attention to the conversation around prison reform from last week, but through a lens that doesn't often make the headlines. Education behind bars. As Nigeria grapples with overcrowded prisons and rising recidivism rates, well, many experts argue that the key to true rehabilitation lies in the classroom, not just the cell. With thousands of inmates expected to integrate into society after serving time, access to quality education and skill-building programs while incarcerated is emerging as a critical tool for change. Our lead correspondent, Bernard Akede, attended an event at the Kirikiri Medium Correctional Center in Lagos, where education advocates, legal reformers, and correctional officers made a strong case for overhauling learning opportunities in our correctional facilities. Take a look.
Thank you. Reimagining education for justice-impacted persons. This was the central theme as stakeholders gathered at the Kirikiri Medium Prison to discuss the pressing need for improved learning conditions within Nigeria's correctional system. For many inmates, life after prison is a difficult adjustment, particularly when they lack the skill or qualification needed to thrive.
I discovered that a lot of incarcerated persons actually want to take advantage of education in prison, but the opportunity is just not there. So I saw this gap, and then we introduced our educational program. There are people who, while they are here, they've been able to get their degrees, have their masters, have PhD. They are here. They write exams every year. They are students of National Open University, and we just really hope that they can start putting them into considerations when issues of education in the nation is actually being discussed.
But gaining education in prison comes with significant challenges, from limited infrastructure and poor funding to societal stigma and the lack of policy support, as explained by Gideon, who spent 6 years behind bars in Ghana.
The education is limited. If I say limited, the accessibility is limited. Only some few people that get access to the education, because in Ghana we have 49 prisons, but only in some medium security that has upgraded to university level.
Despite these barriers, there are stories that prove education in prison can be transformative. One of such is Valentine, who became an author of several books.
I was incarcerated for 21 years. These years are the pivotal age of my life, from the age of 19, and the lesson I learned most in the journey is, for me, it's a journey of purpose for me, and because at a point, by divine providence, it says death does not threaten a man on purpose. So for me, I discovered purpose in that journey. It was a great lesson for me that has helped me so far to where I am in life today.
You know, when you talk about education, it's not just exam. What about the process down there? You know, making adequate provision with regards to education as a rehabilitation initiative, right, to help the inmates to become better persons. You know, like I always say, 95% of incarcerated persons are coming out. Education is one of the most powerful ways to change their mind, to transform their mind, and help them to be hopeful and productive.
As Nelson Mandela once said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And for those behind bars, it could be the very tool that transforms their lives beyond confinement. In Lagos for News Central, Bernard Akede.
Let's say thank you to Bernard for that report, a grand one. But here in the studio with us, we are being joined by Funmi Ogunleye. She's the programs coordinator for CELSIR, a non-profit focused on inmate rehabilitation and prisons education. You are welcome, Ms. Ogunleye.
Thank you, Najuna. Thank you for joining us.
Also, Bernard Akede is joining us online. He's been up since an hour, and he joined us very early this morning to have this conversation. Welcome back from the Kirikiri Minimum Correctional Center, Bernard, and not as an inmate. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you guys both for coming on. I think it's a very important discussion when it comes to talking about education behind bars. So, I mean, I must start, you know, first of all with Funmi here and just ask her about basically the work that you're doing and why, you know, you're raising awareness about just education behind bars. Let's start there.
Okay, thank you very much. So the work we do at Center for Legal Support and Inmate Rehabilitation, CELSIR. So our work is, first, the legal services to indigent, incarcerated persons, people who cannot afford lawyers. We provide services for them, and then there's the rehabilitation angle to our work and the re-entry support. So we believe in second chances. Our slogan is giving love, hope, and second chances. We believe that if persons who have been incarcerated have the chance, are properly rehabilitated, have the chance, have a second chance to come back to society, they can do better, they will know better, they will perform better. So this is one of the things that informed our initiative, and education is one of the powerful weapons, yes, we use when it comes to helping formerly incarcerated persons and incarcerated persons. So we've known that over time in our work, we've seen that a lot of persons in prison probably are not well informed. They are there for poverty, minor demeanor offenses, which if they had the opportunity, they're given a better chance, they might not be there. So why not help them? Why not support them to get a better life? So part of our initiative, we have the GC preparatory class for them. ensuring that at least, even if the person spends 10 years here, when the person comes out, the person can go ahead and further their education. And thankfully, Nigeria also supports the National Open University. They can enroll. I mean, they get a better chance to get jobs when they come outside if they have their certification in there. So part of what we did recently at the launch of the creating the awareness, we actually got into a partnership with Allison to start giving them access to globally accredited courses. Now, you come out and people see that while you were in prison, you were doing something worthwhile with your life. You were getting certifications. They know that, yes, this person's mind has been renewed. There's a transformation ongoing. There are people there that do not bother doing anything, but we believe if somebody takes the step to say, okay, I want to get educated, I want a better life, I do not want to waste my time here. We don't call it prison anymore, it's now a correctional facility.
Exactly.
So if that shows that you're being corrected, something is changing. And beyond that, it's not even just for rehabilitation purpose. It's a right. Education is a right, irrespective of someone being incarcerated. So that is something we're trying to uphold.
For me, let me say this first of all. Right off the bat, your passion shows, and I can see that you're doing this from the inside. But I'm going to come to Bernard, our lead correspondent here at News Central. Bernard, let's ask you from an experiential point of view, what did you see when you got to the Kirikiri Minimum Correctional Facility? What did it make you feel like? And with the inclusion of people's rights being given to them, education, where do you see this going?
Thanks again for having me, and I'd just like to say that I think CELSA has done a fantastic job, to start with. This was my third time of visiting that particular prison, second time of going in, and the inclusion of education for persons who are being incarcerated, I think is a fantastic innovation by CELSA and by every other group that has taken it upon themselves, more often than not pro bono, if I might add, to ensure that persons in the correctional facility gain, education. Now, Valentine, who you saw in that particular report, who was incarcerated for about 21 years and recently gained freedom, so maybe 3-4 years ago, made a statement that stuck with me, and that's what I would use to answer your question. He said that when one is incarcerated as such, time is one thing that you hold dearly, and it's a currency. You see the people who are there stuck for 7 years, 8 years, 9 years. In Valentine's case, he was facing life. I think death penalty, if I'm not mistaken. And that currency, which is time, you have to think about how best you can spend it. In his case, he said he spent it studying and in church. And I think it's a good thing that these particular organizations are trying to ensure that certain persons who are interested while incarcerated find a way to spend this particular currency quite meaningfully, such that when they come out, like your guest also did say, they can be useful not just to themselves, but to society at large. Let's not forget that one major issue that inmates or ex-inmates face when eventually they gain freedom is stigmatization, and the fact that they find it difficult to, to reacclimatize to society. However, with proper education, further education, and thanks to the National Open University of Nigeria as well, these people are able to, in more ways than one, be reintroduced to society and make themselves useful. And then to answer the question about how I kind of felt about the environment, it's one thing to talk about the correctional facilities on the outside. It's another thing to see what's going on the inside. One thing you can take away from a person is their freedom. And that's one thing that you see while you're in there. Just the thought that people are in here for years, months, and will not see what the outside world looks like, it gives you this chilling feel, or chilly feel, if you like. But again, I think it's a laudable innovation. It's a fantastic venture, so to say, that the likes of CELSA and others are doing. And I think with the right support by government and other organizations, persons who are facing incarceration can eventually come out a lot better than the way they went in.
You're bringing support to the fore, because then let's talk about challenges as well, that organizations like CELSA and also facilitators who are aiding in educating the incarcerated. When you spoke to the inmates as well as the facilitators, what did they say were the biggest challenges in ensuring that the education be met?
All right. Well, first of all, we're not able to speak to the inmates. As a matter of fact, we're hardly able to interact with any of the inmates for obvious reasons. You could hardly even turn your neck or your camera more than 45 degrees without getting somebody clawing down upon you, and you definitely understand why that's happening. But for the what I call them, the former inmates who we spoke to, and in that program, there was a panel discussion where they spoke. I'll try and highlight some of the challenges that they gave. Gideon, who's Ghanaian, who came in, talked about the challenge of the government bringing in more facilities. First of all, he said there are over 40 correctional facilities in Ghana, and just a few of them, just a handful of them, offer services, education services that are of, I think, university standard. So to start with, that is one major challenge, such that these correctional facilities would have certifications such that their inmates can be educated to the highest level, as far as possible, as much as possible. Remember again that this event was held to commemorate Nelson Mandela Day. Nelson Mandela himself, I beg your pardon, spent, I believe, 27 years in Robben Island prison. Within the period, he gained a PhD. And this was back in the 90s. So imagine if we have those kind of facilities here in Nigeria and spread across Africa, where inmates can gain quality education. By the time they come out, you see somebody who has spent several years in a correctional facility coming out with a PhD, coming out with a master's degree, coming out with the BSc and other certifications. There was another gentleman who was on that panel who was, I think, the Nigerian jersey. He went in and studied human kinetics and I think physical education. He's a certified football coach and trainer as well. There's Valentine himself, who came out having written 2 books or more, I believe, and so forth and so on. So first of all, there's that issue of the facilities being certified to properly train and educate people. There's also the issue of equipment and what's the word? Equipment and facilities and infrastructure, like Gideon and some other people also mentioned. Remember that people who want to do JAM now have to do computer-based tests. Not all the prisons have these facilities. As a matter of fact, I don't know if anyone has them. So if you have students who want to write certain examinations, the first challenge is that they cannot go out of the correctional facility, whereas they also do not have the equipment to do these exams while in those correctional facilities. So like it or not, they have been disqualified from doing those kind of exams. The young lady who was on that particular panel also complained about the fact that there are no conducive atmospheres for learning. In her own case, when she had to take her WAEC examination, there's noise. It's usually a noisy place amongst the inmates, but she had to study, she had to read. It was quite challenging for her to do that. And these are just a few of the several issues. Of course, there's the discouragement, like one of them mentioned, that come from other inmates. While you have those inmates who are there to push you and to encourage you and to try and learn from what you are doing and from your experience, they also equally are those who would discourage, like one of the guys in there said. They're also those who would discourage you and pull you down, telling you that what you are here for is not to read. You are here to serve time. So there has to be that side of encouragement, either from the inmates themselves or from certain, will I say, officers who are engineered towards rejigging their psyche and helping them to know that this truly is a correctional facility where you can correct whatever ills brought you in here. So truly, and of course, again, there's a part of funding for the correctional facilities. There's government intervention that they're expecting, which some of the prison officials did mention. So it's a plethora of challenges that they have. It's good to see that these challenges are being addressed one after the other, but it would have been better to see that the addressing of these challenges will be swifter than what we currently have.
Swifter indeed. Thank you very much, Bernard. But let's come back into the studio here with Fumi. It seems like you had your work cut out for you. And like I applauded you from before, what your organization is doing for these inmates, trying to help them get these education. However, there's that part. Like we can see from Gideon, is it Gideon now? Bote and Valentine, they are good samples. But let's talk about reintroducing them to society. If I came out with a certificate that says that I perhaps was in prison at so-and-so time when I got this certificate, what is true reintegration? Are businesses, business owners, government, corporate organizations, will they attend to that certificate like a regular, normal certificate?
Okay, thank you very much. I think one of the disservice you would do to somebody that is formally incarcerated is to give them a certificate bearing that.
But they will have to account for time. In anybody's CV, where were you at so-and-so time? Oh, I was in prison, but you got a degree there. Yes, I did.
True. So part of what we do is look for partnerships with persons that would actually employ persons like this. In my organization, we have 2 of our staffs that are formally incarcerated. Nice. And they are a good example. You can never tell when you see them on the outside. So imagine you interacted because you eating with him, and I tell you, oh, he was formerly incarcerated for 5 years. It changes your perspective.
Yeah, Poco and me wants to ask, what did he do? But let's keep it.
No, just leave it. Just pay.
It will interest you to know that there are a lot of persons that did not do anything.
It's just a joke. Yeah, if you don't do a joke.
No, even if you ask, there's also the chance of, okay, has he changed? But why did he even do anything? So we have a community of formerly incarcerated persons. So when they come on the outside, we call them the Global Freedom Scholars. Those are people that embraced education while they were in incarceration. So when they come on the outside, we help them with job readiness, CV writing, and all of that. So it helps them to package themselves well.
So that's managing the symptom. The symptom is stigma. How about affecting the disease itself, which is the way people perceive these people on the outside? If you're doing this much for people on the inside, how about reorienting the people on the outside, us? Is there any program of the sort?
Yes, there is. So reorienting people on the outside too comes with programs like this. I'm here now, I'm talking to people that these things actually happen. A lot of persons do not even know they take education at the correctional facilities, and that was why we had the program in there. It's one thing to gather people on the outside and say, oh, we do this and this, but come inside and see what is being done. So we were very careful to bring in stakeholders, educational stakeholders in Lagos State, WAEC, having Ministry of Education, come on board and see this is what is going on. These are the challenges these people face. So when you're drawing your plan, can you begin to integrate the peculiarity of their situation into what you're drafting out? So this helps you know that, okay, this is going on. And we've got Ministry of Justice too. When people do this, when people get certified, they go ahead, attend BSc, Masters, while in incarceration. Would that count for something when making their judgments? Does that help? With society, we get a lot of persons, we bring people in, we try to bring people into the work to let them know this is what is happening. Meet with people, interact with them, and you find PhD holders there. You find people that are intellect there. And you know that the truth is, some people are just victims of circumstance.
Yeah.
And we should be grateful that we're on the outside. It's a lot being on the inside there. So how would you just put yourself down and just look at this person, that there's a possibility that this person can do better? There's a possibility for change. So we're regularly calling on people for reentry support. We're regularly calling for people on the outside. So come train them, come to get to know them. We'll let you meet them. What's your opinion? What's your take? And I'll say for the longest time, people's perspectives change when they get to interact with people that have been behind bars.
Interesting.
Interesting indeed. Bernard, as we're talking about reforms and just change and the willingness to want to welcome them and reintegrate them and destigmatize convicts and inmates, I do have to ask about, the correctional facilities themselves. Is there a willingness? Did you have any sense of willingness from them to want to, improve or prioritize learning programs among the inmates? Very quickly, because we're out of time.
I would say that one thing we've enjoyed.
Okay. I know that's for Bernard, but you can go after Bernard.
I was saying that, yes, from the responses we got from the officials of the correctional facilities, first of all, they were proud, I wouldn't even lie, to see persons like Valentine, particularly Valentine. Valentine is an amazing success story. To see someone like Valentine, who has spent up to 21 years behind bars, come out and be a national icon, if you ask me. Written 2 books in hardcover and 2 more he says he's currently writing that haven't been published yet. He's been invited by different groups and organizations. So yes, they are. I want to believe that they actually are looking forward to seeing some kind of improvement and to getting more of such success stories so that they can use people like Valentine to encourage others who are still stuck behind bars. I want to believe that for every organization, the end goal is to see that the product of whatever it is you are doing actually becomes a shining star or shining stars, such that you can use that as bragging rights to show that truly, if we are called a correctional facility, then the products we are pushing out are products that have been corrected eventually. And might I add, just like your guest also spoke earlier, you don't even get to tell when these persons come out eventually. There's nothing written on their forehead saying that they have been incarcerated in the past. So if truly they have been properly corrected and the correctional facilities have done their jobs, then it's a plus for both the facilities and for the nation at large. And finally, case in point, I'll tell you that even Valentine, who had been incarcerated for several years, I have met him before and never even knew that he had been incarcerated. Valentine is close to me, so to speak, in certain ways, and I was I was shocked. I was so shocked when I met him at the correctional facility that day, and then knowing that he was going to be the keynote, he was going to take the keynote address, and that he works with CELSA and has been there for has been stuck behind bars for several years. So it's a plus and a win for both the correctional facility, and the society at large.
Very quickly, you wanted to submit, yes, we'll round up. Correctional facilities, are they prioritizing learning?
Yes, I'll say that is one thing we enjoy. We enjoy their support, but they have their limitations due to government funding and all of that. But yes, they prioritize learning. Thank you.
All right. Well, Fumi, thank you. We appreciate you.
Fumi
Ogunleya, she is one of the directors at CELSA, and also our very own lead correspondent, Bernard Akede. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Bernard. I'm sure that this gives freedom a totally new meaning to you after witnessing all of this. Thank you once again.
Bernard, I need you to strike back, fight back.
No, Bernard, just stay. Let's end here for this conversation. We've got more coming up inside of Breakfast Extra.
And welcome back. It's time for us to head to South Nigeria, where we're going to be examining fresh tensions in Delta State surrounding the proposed creation of Warri State. At the recent House of Representatives Constitution Review hearing in Yenagoa, the Ishekiri people formally submitted a demand for a new state encompassing Warri North, South, Southwest local government areas, as well as parts of Edo State. But leaders of the Yoruba people, especially in Warri South local government area, have vehemently rejected this proposal, arguing it sidelines their population and historical claims to the land.
So joining us now to unpack the constitutional, historic, and political implications, we will be having three guests. We're expecting Sheriff Mulade, National Coordinator, Center for Peace and Environmental Justice. With us here in the studio, we have Mr. Patrick Doyle, member of the Shekiri Renaissance Group. Wilson Omene is also joining us online, former Executive Chairman, Ethiop West Local Government Council. Gentlemen, you are welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Patrick Doyle, I'm going to be starting with you. Thank you very much for being live with us here in the studio, but I would like to get your reaction regarding the rejection by the Yoruba leaders of this Warri State that is being proposed. Why is a Warri State important in the first place?
Let me just straight away articulate the view of the Ishekiri people on the proposed Warri State. The proposed Warri State is a fallback option that the Shekiri people have been forced to come up with. The Shekiri position, as articulated in our memorandum to the Constitutional Review Committee of the National Assembly, is that if states are to be created at all, we will be demanding that a Warri State be created for us, because Warri is our homeland. Every ethnicity has a homeland. Warri is our homeland. And as it were, we're already being choked inside our homeland, even as we see, but that's not even the issue. So if there's going to be state creation, we demand a Warri State. If adequate provisions are not made in the new constitution to protect the rights of minorities, especially micro-minorities, which the Shekiri people appear to be within the political entity known as Delta State. So it is not, so nobody is gung-ho about creating a Warri State. We're more gung-ho about creating equity where we are right now.
All right. Mr. Wilson, I want to come to you and ask you about Urhobo's. You represent the Urhobo's interests in that area, and you are also part of government for Delta State. The Urhobo delegation has called backing or supported the Ethiop State as well. Ethiop State instead. What makes Ethiop State a stronger or more legitimate proposal, and why reject Warri State?
Well, let me thank you for inviting me to this program. I would have loved my younger brother, Chief Victor Kumagba, to be with us. But I'm going to speak as much as I know about the proposal from the Shekiri end for Warri State. But coming to Ethiop State, I want us to hang our discussion on three major principles so that we can get to the really bottom on who is really being treated unfairly or not. And what these three are is justice, fair play, and equity. All our discussions, if we can center it around these three parameters, then we'll get somewhere. Now, why a thief state? Based on these three criteria that I've just mentioned. First of all, we've always been our brother's keeper from time immemorial. And these can be testified or justified by our claims of being majority all the way back to the Midwest region, which eventually turned to Midwest State. And by semantics that I always say, they renamed it to be Bendel. We have always been the majority in this unionism. And what did we get for it? Nothing. What we got for it is our own resources being used to develop the capital territory of these states that they kept moving us to. In Midwest State, for example, or that Bender State, we were the largest contributor to the Commonwealth of Bender State. Indisputable. Nobody can dispute that. And in spite of that, we have nothing to show for it in terms of development. Look at the Benin City today. Benin City was developed majorly with our money from Roboland because we were the major contributor to the Commonwealth of Bender State. But no regrets, let me tell you. Why no regrets? Because we have common affiliation with the Endo people. And we, like I earlier said, we are poised to maintaining that brotherhood relationship with our neighbors. And they moved us again from Bender State to the current Delta State. And of course, we still remain the majority. Not majority in terms of population alone or land space, but majority in terms of what we bring to the table that you call Commonwealth. We are the largest producer of oil and gas in this state. The records are there. So I'm not going to tell you, oh, we don't have the others don't produce, but we are the largest producer of oil and gas. And let me tell you, all the oil and gas that is from Roboland are being channeled to the sea. Express and the loading bay for it to be evacuated overseas after sales. So we are not in the picture at all of what happens in there. But the goods are removed from outside and taken to the loading bay in the Chekri land and the environment. And these are the people who feel that they are supposed to control what leaves our land through them. But we are not even objecting to that. We've never objected because we are peace-loving people. We've never carried guns one day to say we are going to protest. I'm talking about equity, I repeat it, justice and fair play. Now, we as Urhobos, having been able to be pushed again over to Delta State and still contributing immensely, we are there again using our money to develop a Asaba environment, that Delta North to be specific. You go to Asaba today, before Asaba became capital, you know, you get a piece of land there, you can pick it up for just nothing. You know, an ABC road that I used to know, because I have friends from that part of the state. Well, we used to come from Lagos and say, come on, let's play around with Asaba. Nothing was there in Asaba compared to what we even have in Sapele, Warri, and Ughelli and the environment. So today, if you want to get a piece of land, maybe 100 by 100 on that ABC road, you should be talking about 100 or something million. One piece of land in Mosoga or Ughelli or something that will give you 50 million. None.
Right. Well, I've been trying to get your attention just for a second, please. Thank you very much. Now, you have pointed out the grievances of the Yoruba people. You have pointed out the reason why Ethiopia State seems more visible to the Yoruba people than the Warri State. But Mzino has a question for you.
So I was trying to ask, when it comes to the, when you speak about Commonwealth and the Yoruba people being the brother's keeper, now this is all well and good, but aren't the demands from the Yoruba people, the Ishekiri people, the same thing? Shouldn't they be uniting and forming a sort of front? Instead of, well, rejecting one state or the other. I'm sure Mr. Patrick Doyle here has some, he doesn't quite agree with some of the details that you have given. Mr. Doyle, what exactly was that you were trying to get our attention on regarding his submission?
Some things are empirical truths that do not even, arguing about it at this point in time would make us look like we're market women. The truth of the matter is that 33% of all oil and gas that Nigeria produces is in Warri territory, the Shekiri homeland. That is an empirical fact. All because, let's face it, all this talk about Warri State, we don't even need, we shouldn't have been talking about it, if not for the fact that some people want to appropriate our homeland. If that wasn't the case, for instance, we're talking about the majority. You're the majority in Ethiopia, you're the majority in Uweli, you're the majority, you understand? But in Warri, you are not the majority in the Warri federal constituencies. Urobo only occupy one of 3 constituencies that make up the Warri federal constituency, Warri South. And in that it is in Warri Urban, that's Warri City. And it is a small portion of Warri City. You cannot be. And I make bold to even give you, this is INEC, the voters register, the current voters register, the last vote that was used for the last election. It says here, Warri South, where we have a small population of Urobo people. How do I say it? The impression you get is because all the other adjoining territories in Warri Urban are Urobo, and they are joined. And just like in Lagos now, Lagos has joined up with Ota. Lagos has joined up with Mowe. You understand? And that's Ogun State.
Yes.
In Alagbado, there is Alagbado Lagos, there's Alagbado Ogun. It's much the same way that in Warri, in the urban areas of Warri, there are areas that are Uwe, local governments, inside the cosmopolitan area known as Warri, just as you have the same thing happening in Lagos and Ogun State.
Right.
So, they are lumping the population of the Urobo hinterland that is outside of the geographical expression called Warri Federal Constituency, which is 1,520 square miles. That is Ishekiri territory. Warri Urban being a small part of this 1,520 square meters. So inside the Warri, there's a small area there that is occupied by Urobo people.
Right.
And this is, I'll give it to you now, straight, so that we're not left in any doubt as to the Ishekiris, as of the voters register. In Warri South local government, 88,309. Urobo, 38,000. The mixed demography, that means every other person, Ijo, Igbo, Hausa, Edo, is Isoko, good people. Is 51,517. That's every other person. So and this is empirical. It's not storytelling.
Right.
So, but the gentleman who we're speaking with is from Ethiopia. He has no business with the Warri, where his local government is situated in what's called Delta Central. Warri is in Delta South.
Okay. Now, Mr. Doyle and Mr. Omene, I'm wondering exactly why the definition of these territories are very important when it comes to the concept we're trying to build here regarding whether a Warri state or an Ethiopian state. Is it the production or...
I support an Ethiopian state. Yeah, but just I think he's made a good point. They deserve a state, and by all means they should have a state. But that state should not include my homeland.
Let's state this here as we're talking about state creation. During the last plenary session, the Senate President and every other Senate have said that its state creation is not visible at this time, and every conversation about that should be shelved for now, right? In the sake of equity and fairness, as you both have put forth in your argument about state creation, it begs to ask the question, can't the entirety, the diversity of Delta State itself work together in sharing the Commonwealth, that each ethnic group, is fairly represented and fairly shares the Commonwealth and develops their own region?
Is
that ever going to be visible?
Yeah. Let me come in quickly. My friend there said I am from Ethiopia local government, Ethiopia West. He is correct. Yes, I'm from Ethiopia West. But that does not separate me from the common interest that an Urubu man shares in terms of their territory. I want to state clearly, and if you can go back to the statement from my brother Victor Kumagba during the presentation at Bayelsa, he was even emphatic with the legal presentations that he came up with, undisputed. And if you can go back to that and show it to the public, you will know that yes, the statement from my friend is not entirely correct. It's skewed. Well, I can sympathize with his opinion because they have found themselves in a situation whereby they have been very hostile to us, and this is not good enough. We have been our brother's keeper all these years. But let me tell you why it is so important to move away from that unionism called Delta. The reason is this. In spite of the fact which he agreed that we are the majority, in spite of the fact that we are majority and we produce the largest quota of oil and gas, which is the bane of the Nigerian economy and Delta State in particular, we have been shortchanged by these hostile neighbors. Sorry that I use the word hostile neighbors, but that's the fact. They've been very hostile to people who have been accommodating them and playing big brother to all of them. One typical example. In the last 16 years before Borevori came in, even though Borevori himself is still playing the third, as far as I'm concerned, he's playing the third tenure up to Okowa. But let me just limit myself to when we had Udwa as governor and taken over by Okowa. It was hell for horrible people. It was hell for 16 years. They have been decided to unionize themselves as an opposition to Urubu's interest. Why do I say that? 3 universities were created in Okowa's administration. And out of these 3 universities, 2 went to the Delta North, 1 to Delta South, meaning Nisoko, Ijo, and Ichekiri. None, and they have all admitted that we're majority, none was created for Delta Central. And this was possible. You don't tell me, oh, but the speaker then was an honorable man who is now the governor. And the speaker had nothing, he has no powers. It is the voting strength of the obscured local government setup that the Babangida administration did for them by giving them 9 and 8, that's 17 against 8, against the majority. So they were able to vote out Urobo from benefiting from 3 universities in 3 senatorial districts, and 1 senatorial district, being the largest, omitted completely. How do you say that? Where's the justice in there? Where's the equity? Where's the fair play?
Just a second. Mr. Omene, let me let my colleague ask. I have a very big question to ask.
Yeah.
May I? Thank you very much, Judith. Now, Mr. Omene, from what you and Mr. Patrick Doyle here are stating is that there is at the core of this one thing, or maybe two. There is demographic. How many people or who is the larger population? That's one. On the other side is production. Seeing that the Delta is a all-producing area, it's who's producing the most and whether these dividends are coming back to the specific people. But if the different ethnicities, Urobo, Ishekiri, Isoko, and the rest, start to ask or agitate for a separate state, doesn't that dissolve the one voice that should be the Delta at the end of the day? The Delta that should be asking for, well, reclaiming what's up to be theirs. Because if the Isoko people want to come out and say, first off, there's only 1 and 2 oil wells in their areas and we produce, so maybe we should also raise our voices and ask for Isoko State as well. Doesn't that break down the one voice that should be Delta State? Let me allow Mr. Doyle give his piece and then you can. Mr. Doyle.
Sorry. Let me say this. I started by saying the Ishekiri position is that if there should be creation of new states, we will be demanding a Warri State.
If
it is not, it's not our top
priority.
Our priority is the protection of micro-minority rights within what is Delta State.
But he's painted Ishekiri
No, but I've given you facts.
For the submission, he's giving you, he said that, that although they are the largest number, they have the somewhat sideline and the Commonwealth, he's painted along that,
Notice
so
that
it doesn't seem like
he has been speaking about Delta Central, Delta South, the senatorial zone known as Delta South. That zone comprises of the Shekiri homeland, the Isoko homeland within Delta State, and the Ijaw homeland within Delta State. The Isokos have 3 local governments. The Ijaws have 3 local governments, Burutu, Bomadi, and what have you. The Shekiris have 3 local governments within that Delta South. You get it? Mm-hmm. And these places are homelands of people. The Isoko have a homeland, the Ijaw people have a homeland. The Ijaw people spill over. A few of them spill over into Warri Southwest and Warri North local governments, a minority of them. The Isoko homeland has a homeland. A few Urobo people are within your homeland. But why he is now appropriating, and the reason why, because we are contiguous with a Delta Central local government, UWE local government, because we are contiguous with them, he has now brought the entire Urobo population into
the mix,
into the Warri urban, as if, because they are not, because clearly you can see, I've given you the...
So Mr. Dole, yours is on the possibility that if there is, then there should be on the table.
Otherwise, no, because let's face it, Warri Kingdom has existed since 1490. And for that time, 1490 to 1884, it was an independent kingdom. And the land territory of the Warri Kingdom at that time is exactly coterminous with what is now known as the Warri Federal Constituency, 1,520 square miles. This is unassailable fact.
So, Mr. Doyle, based on space, based on heritage, based on population, that's where your argument is.
And the only reason why why there was panic when we said if it's going to be, we demand a Warri State, is because they want to appropriate that which is 33%. This is empirical. He keeps on talking. I'm giving empirical.
Let's give him a chance to respond to this. Mr. Omene, please go ahead. I'd like your response to my earlier question and Mr. Doyle's submission.
Yes, it's funny to hear my brother, my friend there says that they have Warri as their homeland and they have 3 local government. That's not correct. That's entirely wrong. Why? All the local governments where Ishekiri people are, pockets of the Ishekiri people are, majority of those local governments, they are occupied or they are owned by either Robos or Jos. Look at Warri North, for example. In the latest development that is due to the Supreme Court judgment and the delineation, the current delineation by INEC, you will find out that they have reversed all of them because in those days when you can come up with Sokoto votes, you just Warri North, the Cocoa have come up with so many millions and millions of votes. Now that you have to go through the beavers, you find out that they don't even have 100 of what used to come from there that we used to refer to as Sokoto vote anymore. And the delineation has exposed them completely that they have no space. If you look at their history, you will find out that they have a place called Ode Chekiri. That is their homeland. But unfortunately, they need space. They need space.
All right, Mr. Wilson, do you know why?
All
right, Mr. Wilson, I just...
Most of the land that they are claiming today, even where their palace is overrun by the verdict of
Mr. Wilson, you are just playing into his... because everything that he said here, you just affirmed it. Because he's been saying for quite some time now that that their land, their ancestral land, is being appropriated, and that's what you just alluded to with your submission.
I don't think that land belongs to Morocco. It's a Morocco state. No. You cannot do that. So if you buy something from me, you purchase the land from me, you should be stating clearly who owns the land. There's nothing wrong in saying, I own a place in Efuru, for example. All right? And I said, this place that I own in Efuru has made this, I've turned it to land. That's not correct. I have a place in Efuru, but that place is so street in Efuru. So if you buy land from us and you build your palace, and the fact that the Supreme Court has told you that land belongs to the family, then how are you going to be telling us that Warri is your hometown? Warri is your territory.
Mr. Wilson,
most part of Warri, the enclave in Warri is very minimal.
Just a second, Mr. Wilson, a minute.
It's nothing to write home about.
All right, sir.
But one thing I want to emphasize, please, let me emphasize this, please. Please.
Okay.
Now, what I want to emphasize is that we can ordinarily, if it were not for their hostile behavior towards Robo, is part of the fact that we are accommodating them. Intermarriages is so high between these two tribes. So sometimes you find it extremely difficult to say you want to resist them. You have to keep them because we have our sons and daughters from their women. And the same thing too, they take our women too as wives. So this intermarriage thing has made us Robo to constantly bring them close. You bring an agreement close to your land, he will collect it from you the next few minutes if you're not being careful.
All right, now, Mr.
Because that is there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Omene. I'm from Delta State, Mr. Omene. I am Isoko. And Mr. Omene, I hope you can hear what I'm saying. Now, I'm from Delta State and I am Isoko, and I am very aware of the grievances of the Isoko people. My hope is that every single ethnic group inside of Delta State comes together and actually has one voice. This one voice will help us repatriate all the sums that we feel are being lost to other states. And I'm thinking here, if we are agitating for separate states, for separate ethnicities, then doesn't that erode that one voice that we ought to have as Delta State? That is my submission as a Deltan. And I'm hoping that you, Mr. Patrick Doyle here,
I need
to say something.
Mr. Doyle has a submission. Let's let him speak. We'll come to you. We'll come to you, Mr. Omene. Let Mr. Patrick Doyle give his submission here.
For the purposes of clarity, the palace of the Olu of Warri is in Warri. The Olu of Warri is the overlord of the Warri homeland. The place he's talking about is called Okumagba. There was a court case indeed, and that court case granted them customary right of occupancy. You've been a tenant here for so long, you cannot be removed from here. So they do not have radical title. Radical title means the real owners of a place the radical title of the entire Warri Urban and all the other Warri Southwest and Warri North. All of that radical title belongs to the Crown. So yes, you understand. Yeah. So but it's called. They don't have radical title. They have what you have the customary right of occupancy, and that is what he's. That's what I say. But the truth of the matter, but it is good. Then more than that, if for instance we are Yoruba people, our language is a dialect of you. If for instance, and we are contiguous with the Ilaje of Ondo State. If for instance we said to ourselves, okay, put us with the Southwest, let us create a coastal state with the Ilaje up to Lagos State, because Lagos State is one of the coastal states, which naturally could include the Warri, what is now the Warri federal constituencies. Would we be that micro minority? We have tried to stay with these people, and they've been hostile. The Ijos have been hostile, the Yorubas have been hostile to us. The Benin, who we also we have a contiguous border with, have been nice to us. But when they created Edo and Delta states, we were cut away from them. So we don't have issues with them. But I'm just saying, for instance, you think you're a majority? If we decide the same way that they have infiltrated with their hinterland into what belongs to what the Warri Crown has radical title to. If, for instance, we now let all our Yoruba brothers from our coastal areas to join us, will you be talking like this? So, but once again, we say we are not crazy about a Warri state, but we will definitely not sign up to an Ethiopian state or an Yoruba state and become a part of it. If we cannot take care of what we have now with equity, instead of using all these myths that don't exist, we have Supreme Court judgments that have granted us radical title as far back as 1926.
Just a second.
Because we're pretty much out of time. I just want to say thank you to all the gentlemen. Thank you so much, Mr. Doyle, for gracing us with your presence again today, and also to you, Mr. Wilson Omene. My own submission is going to toe the same line with Mizuno, but I will say this. As long as we've always touted for too long that diversity is our strength, but over and over again is continuing to show that diversity is in fact our weakness. We do hope that although the Senate have said that state creation is not on the table for this constitutional review, but more importantly, these divides need to be sewn up for the Commonwealth and for the sake of the state, so that it can stand stronger to focus on the things that do matter for the state, for the improvement and the betterment of the state. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We appreciate you for this. It's very clear that this dialogue, we don't have enough time for this dialogue. It is a continuum that needs to be had.
Mr. Wilson, you're not giving me enough time to tell you one simple truth. That thing is, you're talking about all of us having a voice and working together. It's beautiful to work together. But one thing that I want to let you know, this Ethiopian state is created out of Delta State does not stop them being one state. The others can be in one state. Chekiris are joined to Ijos. The Ijos are joined to Isokos. Isokos are joined to Anioma.
We're also joined to Ilaje. We're also joined to Ilaje.
So why can't you all just be Deltans?
We're also joined to Ondo States.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson Omene, our apologies.
Isoko is linked to Anioma. Isoko is linked to Ijo. Ijo is linked to Chekiri. They can form one state. Why are they worried about that?
So, Mr. Omene, these are not claims, these are facts, and we appreciate that you brought them out.
Let them continue with our unionism.
All right, Mr. Omene, we appreciate that you brought out these facts. You are actually correct, and so is Mr. Doyle here in the studio. We'd like to end it here because we are out of time. Unfortunately, it's a very exciting conversation, especially that I am from this region. But thank you very much. What I will ask of the two of you is that you please integrate our sister here, Judith Atibi, by finding her a husband to marry from the Delta State.
I don't want that.
Because she's very interested in our Commonwealth. But thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, sir. Let's go on a break. And when we come back, we're switching topics. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Welcome back. And this time, there will be no fighting. This is the Breakfast Extra, and it's time for our Wellness Central, where we explore the heart of health and wellness conversations that matter to you and to your families, and to us as well. Today, we're making World IVF Day something to celebrate, a day that commemorates a medical breakthrough that has transformed countless lives across the world. On July 25th, 1978, the world welcomed Louis Brown, the first baby conceived through in vitro fertilization, IVF, openly on a new frontier in reproductive medicine. Now, since then, over 8 million babies have been born via IVF, giving hope to individuals and couples facing fertility challenges. But while science has made remarkable strides, myths, stigma, and also emotional hurdles still surround the IVF journey, especially here in Nigeria, most especially here in Nigeria and across most of Africa.
So joining us now to shed light on this different but powerful path to parenthood is someone at the forefront of fertility science in Africa. Oluwatosin Ogunyemi, he is a senior clinical embryologist, there we go, and also CEO of Prof Consult International Limited. You're welcome to the program, Tosin.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Let's just get started, shall we? IVF is, as the world celebrated, there's some parts of Nigeria that still doesn't accept it or doesn't see it as right way to fertility, or you know what I mean? Like, they're still very much not fully accepted. And I want to ask why that is, and when can we get to that point where IVF is normal?
Okay, thank you very much. IVF, I'll take you a little back for us to understand something about IVF. IVF was brought out of compassion, was brought out of sacrifice, was brought out of trying to help somebody achieve a desired goal. Now, for us in Nigeria, the premium on infertility is very high. Nonetheless, we struggle to accept something new, especially when it comes to something that is against our tradition or beliefs. So for us, IVF is helping you achieve a pregnancy through science. As Nigerians, we oftentimes think God gives babies and you should just wait. But we have seen over the years that even God is the author of IVF. He's the one that give us the knowledge and helps us to achieve pregnancy through science. So IVF should be accepted, and it's getting the deserved acceptance now in Nigeria.
And attention as well.
Yeah, and attention.
It's very interesting because from many years ago, it sounded like, in Nigeria. But we see that many people are actually conceiving via IVF.
Yes, a lot of people.
Some mothers don't even want to share that they have a problem.
Yes, exactly.
And IVF was a solution.
Exactly. Wow. So there is that stigma that you talk about, and it's birthed from a cultural standpoint where people are like, until you have birth, pushing out a baby, you're not considered a woman. That's something that we have to really work against.
Well, I beg to differ a bit, because lately we've been
I don't agree with that. I'm just saying that this is
we've seen more people talk about IVF, especially with the celebrities.
With the celebrities who are influencers and paid to do it.
Not every one of them. In my experience, I've been in this business almost 15 years now, and I've seen people come up, even at the airports, gatherings, and say, "Thank you. I had my baby at this place. I had my baby at this place. You guys are doing a good job." You see, we need to change that perspective. We need to start to encourage people to talk about it. That's why we are doing this. Even the Association of Fertility and Reproductive Health, we are even organizing more and more, opportunities for people to speak about these things and get people to, talk about it.
I'll also say, injury aside, habits that might have caused infertility aside, how prone are Nigerians statistically to infertility?
I put it to you, is 1 in 6.
1 in
6.
How many are we in this room? Thank God.
Wow.
1 in 6.
1 in 6 women, or does this include men as well?
I put it to you that 53%, the last data we analyzed, 53% male factor infertility.
Wow.
Yeah, it's way more because of our lifestyle, because of the food we eat, modern kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, so, tell them again to the men. They don't listen.
You know,
so
people,
thank you. So it's not a female problem.
It's not. Never been.
Now that's where I'm going to. IVF sort of seems like a procedure that the woman has to carry all alone. There's very little sensitization to the male folk as to what their responsibilities are when it comes to this ailment.
Yeah, that's one of the things we are trying to, do by coming out to talk about this.
How much responsibility lies with men is my question.
Almost everything. The baby comes to the home. As we all know, the father is the head of the home. You take full responsibility for the family as a man. Mm-hmm. So when you are expecting your child, you should take full responsibility. Mm-hmm. That's why when people come to the clinics, we ask them to come with your husband, and we talk to them as a couple. Okay. Because it takes two to achieve this.
Now getting down to the anatomy of it. Yeah. Now the woman might not be the issue here. The issue might not lie with the woman. It might lie with the man. But IVF is the sense most treatments are focused on the women.
No. So walk us through the process.
Yes.
Okay,
let the male condition.
Okay. I'll focus on the male condition, but I'll start from the basics. For you to have a baby, you would have a sperm and you would have an egg. Now, for a baby to come, a good sperm will meet with a good egg. Mm-hmm. So you can see it's 50-50. Now, the only part where the woman has a little bit of responsibility is because they carry. Mm-hmm. But before we get to the point of carriage, the sperm has to be good. Mm-hmm. And now, for one egg, you need millions of sperms. Okay. So now the responsibility now falls back on the men to give enough sperm to fertilize the egg.
And say the man is not able to do that. What are the?
There are a lot of options. There's something we call intracytoplasmic sperm injection, which is ICSI. Came into light in the 1990, and it is vastly available now. Mm. Men with severe oligospermia, what I mean by severe oligospermia, you have less than 1 million sperm count in your ejaculate, you can still have a baby. You come to the expert, that's what people like us do. Look at it, pick out one sperm, put it inside one egg, and achieve the baby.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what we can do.
Deliberate infusion of that one
good
into an egg.
We can also do it that will select a very good sperm out of the millions and put it directly into the head and achieve a blastocyst.
There's also the argument, and Judith, come with me here. There's also the argument that this is playing God. Mm-hmm. That the more you interfere,
that's right. I cannot follow you. You know that.
This is the argument.
They're not playing God at all.
So but where I'm going to is that these interventions, these interferences that man has when it comes to recreation, when it comes to reproduction, have fallout effects down the line. How true or false is this?
IVF babies are healthy, good babies.
Petri dish babies.
They're not.
That's a term that they use.
No,
it's not new.
I dare to say they are even better than your natural conceived babies. There's something we call pre-implantation genetic diagnosis and testing. That process, we can check the chromosomes of the embryo before we put it in.
That's where the argument starts. While I am not saying that
just you being caring.
The argument is that, especially outside of this climate, Nigeria, that people go further to engineer their
That's
babies,
where the ethical issue is.
Brown eyes, specifically, make them taller right from birth.
That's unethical. You see, it's just like you having a gun. You can use gun for protection. You can use it to, but at the same time, you can use it to kill.
Okay.
So, but agreed all over the world, we are under strict rules, ethical guidelines. We have the AFRH here in Nigeria. We have HEFA.
So it's wrong to engineer babies.
It's wrong. It's not allowed yet. But what we are talking about now is, for instance, two lovers. One has a sickle gene, the other two has it. They want to marry. How can they still achieve it? We can do testing. Pick out the ones who have a sickle gene. And the ones who are free will transplant, and they have healthy babies, and they continue their life. They're almost not broken. We have people who need transplant, who need grafting, and you want a matching baby. You can achieve that. Okay. And also, for people who are advanced in age, I want to try, I still want my garments. I'm old, I still want to try. I have some eggs, but might not work. We can check them. All these are possible because of the technology of IVF.
Okay.
Now, if you look closely into the whole IVF story, it was ordained by God. If God didn't want it to be possible, he would have put antibodies in the gametes. Now, that means we cannot make it the way we like. No. But God has made it.
You said I didn't hear you. You were quite low there.
I said that God did not put antibodies into gametes because he wants us to procreate freely.
Oh,
so he wants us to be able to play around those things. And after the doctor stimulates, the embryologist works in the lab, generates the blastocysts, puts it back into the woman. There's a silent place where God now comes to play, the implantation. God, we can generate fantastic embryos. We can give you a percentage. With what we know, with our experience, with the data we've been able to analyze, we can say 75% or 60%, this should give you a baby. But you might not still have a baby if God doesn't permit it. So God still plays a big role in IVF, the way I believe it. The person who trained me, Daya Yusuf, she used to say, small embryology, big God. That is, no matter what you do in embryology, how skillful you are,
But away from that, let's talk about the access to IVF in Nigeria. With the economic indices and the cost of living crisis that we're seeing, I can only imagine how expensive this must be. So let's talk about treatment, the affordability of it.
Yeah.
Affordability.
Well, if you'd ask me, Jude, I would not put a price to what you desire most in life. For me, if you want a baby and you need IVF, that's what you need. If you have tubular blockage, you cannot conceive naturally without IVF. It's a necessity. It's just like water. It's like somebody who's bleeding out in the hospital. You need blood transfusion. We don't talk about money at that time. Yes, we need money to do IVF. Yeah, set you back maybe around 3 million, 4 million, thereabouts. But you can plan for it. What we want from the association end and everyone is for people to come out and ask questions. Come out and find out what is wrong. Why am I not getting pregnant? If you don't get pregnant, you are sexually active for a year, you're not pregnant, ask questions. Call a doctor. I need to see a fertility expert. Book me an appointment. It won't cost you anything. And you get examined, they check the man, go with your partner, check the semen parameters. Man, you have suboptimal sperm, but these are the things you can do to improve your lifestyle. These are the things you can do to achieve progress. It's not always IVF at first hand. You might just change your lifestyle and you have pregnancy. For ladies, especially on the high now, you're noticing a bit of changes in your body, hormonal changes, menstrual fluctuation. As an indicated lady, you should ask questions. These are the things that we should do as responsible couples, to ask the right question. Don't talk about the money yet. If you want to buy a car, take a loan, make a plan, you save. I don't think there's any car that is new that sets you back more than IVF. How many cars do you have in Lagos, my friend?
A lot.
A lot.
Now,
we got Teslas in Lagos, by the way.
We know of certain people who are buying Lambos. And same thing that I tell people, when you want it the most, what you desire the most. Have you seen a woman waiting before? I tell you, every minute of the day, she's thinking about it. Every man that is waiting, every minute, he goes out to watch football, he's thinking about it, God, when. So if the premium is that high, you just make a plan.
Okay, interesting. Real quick, is IVF a very integral factor when it comes to surrogacy? Now, I know this is a different subject, but I would like to know.
It is. Okay. Because in Nigeria, we are only allowed to do surrogacy through IVF.
Okay.
And surrogacy comes into play when the woman cannot carry.
There are other ways to do surrogacy besides IVF?
Oh yes, Judith, it's the natural way where a man and a woman meet.
What?
I
I thought it was only Sarah and Abraham that was supposed to do it.
Yeah, that's the point.
So, there's gestational carriage. That is, a woman whose womb is good wants to help a couple who have a challenge. Then the garment, that is the sperm and the egg from the couple. They commission somebody who's willing to help them birth this baby.
Are we practicing that now in Nigeria?
Yes, a lot.
There are surrogate mothers who
every day.
And this is a commercial thing?
It's not commercial.
I mean, wouldn't I be paid if I'm going to
be a
surrogate?
If you are going to be a surrogate, you'll be put in strict conditions.
Okay.
And you'd have to be taken care of.
So this is on the selection of the couple. This is not just like there's a marketplace where you can get a surrogate mother.
It's mostly clinical. Okay. You'd have the clinical team, the hospital looks at. We have agencies. We have legal.
So regulation.
Legal. We have under the association, we have a laid down rule.
Okay.
Like how you should go about surrogacy. The association is strict on it. There's something we call donation. Donation, where people who, just like in the blood bank, you find people who are O positive, especially B negatives and Bs, and the blood is very, very, very hard to find. So people who have will come to the bank and say, okay, I feel good today, I'm going to bless somebody with my blood. I'll put it in the bank. Surgery.
The same thing with something?
Same thing. That's the same ideology and the same way I try to preach donation. It's not about the money. It's not about the commercial. When you put commercial into donation, then the ethical part of it is
compromised. This has been very informative and educative. And also, we do hope that it has been able to quell the minds of individuals and Nigerians to destigmatize those who use IVF as an option to procreate.
Before I go,
real quick,
for general public, I want to invite everyone to the AFRH.
You have to give me. I have to give you an invoice.
It's an open house. It's free.
It's
for everyone. Yeah, for the general public to learn about it.
Send me a deal. I'll send you the address, but I cannot say it. I will collect
it is free.
It's free for me.
All right, good. Thank you very much, Mr. Alwatosin.
Thank you very much.
Oh no, this is. I'm not driving you out. That is stay. Let's take a break so that Mr. Oguyemi can walk out. And we'll be back.
Good morning to you, Nigeria. You have been watching Breakfast Extra here on News Central Television. It's time for us to celebrate our weekend warriors, by the way. Today is where we celebrate a phenomenal triumph that has swept the nation. The Super Falcons have brought it back home with style and spirit. That's right. The Falcons have done it again. They pulled off a stunning comeback against the host Morocco to win their 10th Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON title, affirming their status as undisputed queens of Africa football.
Yes, indeed they have. Here's how it went down. Morning fireworks in Rabat as Morocco surged to a 2-0 lead within the first 24 minutes with goals.
Firing combat engine, by the way.
And let's not forget Folashade Ijami Lucy. Clinical. That was clinical on the equalizer there. And Jennifer Echijini, who sealed the deal in the 88th minute. Young talents rising in the moment. I mean, it was fantastic. Our defensive wall captain, Rashida Dajibade as well. GK Chiamaka Nadozie. They were immovable and awarded Player of the Tournament and Goalkeeper of the Tournament honors respectively.
Now, this isn't just football, by the way. It's legacy. It's consistency. It's a message. The Super Falcons still reign supreme in Africa's women football. Unmatched in dominance, they have reaffirmed Nigeria's spot on the global stage, not just in Africa, by the way, reminding the world that there is no challenge too big, no stage too hostile for Nigerian grit and grace.
All right, now, so joining us, we are going to be joined by Tunde Koiki, his head sports desk, News Central here, and of course, here he is. Tunde, are you as excited as we are here inside? Yeah,
yes, sir. That's what's up, man.
Tunde, it's good to have you here.
The bragging rights we will have. Tune, what stood out for you about the Falcons' tactical adjustment at halftime that fueled this comeback that we saw?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Good morning, Nigerians. What a day. What an absolute day. It's the day after, and everybody's still celebrating what was a really phenomenal win. This was the first time in the tournament that Nigeria had gone behind. And they went behind them in extraordinary circumstances. They were 2 goals down, so they had to dig themselves out of a really deep ditch in order to be able to overcome their opponents, who, of course, who are host favorites, hostile environments, backs to the wall kind of performance. So it was amazing.
Nigeria, indeed, it is a legacy. Nigeria went wild last night. Even on our chat group, you could see that on the News Central chat. Everybody was talking.
Everybody at the same time.
I don't know why you guys stopped chatting when the MD sent his own submission, but it's okay. But in any case, while we are celebrating, let's put our straight faces on and ask ourselves the very hard question. What went wrong in the first half?
No, I think probably, I wouldn't say stage fright because these are very experienced internationals. They've played at the highest level before. They played at the FIFA World Cup. They played at the Olympic Games. I think it was just a tactical mistake in terms of execution. There was nothing wrong with the personnel. There was just, I think, so the Moroccans saw that and exploited it as quickly as possible. And I think that was what the mistake, I think that was what the error was in the first half. But like I said, credit must go to Coach Jotima, the celebrated Spanish coach. But having said that, you must also remember the fact that, you know, these are girls who are playing with a tremendous amount of pay. They're still being owed match bonuses for as far back as 3 years, if my memory serves me right, at 21 or 25 matches. You know, they've not been paid match bonuses for 3 years. They've not been paid their cap allowance throughout this tournament. But they put all that aside and went out and delivered a masterful performance. So I'm just hoping that the football authorities will recognize this for what it is, that these are women who put their personal issues aside and put country first, and they should be paid what they're owed. They should be paid what is due to them as quickly as possible.
There's
only so much do good Madugu can do. It didn't work, I'm sorry.
Oh gosh, I'm just going to keep it moving. Quickly, as we're talking about, you know, remunerations and paying these ladies what they owe, let's also just talk about what this triumph says about the future of investment and support, especially for women's sports in Nigeria. These women have showed themselves over and over again in 13 editions. They have won this 10 times, remaining undefeated. Can we start to talk about real improvement in terms of investment and support for the women?
Look, Judith, this goes beyond the Women's Africa Cup auditions. For the past half a decade or a decade now, Nigerian women in sports have consistently pushed Nigeria to greater heights and put our name on the global stage. You look at Tobila Babuso, who's Nigeria's first ever athletics world record holder. You look at someone like Miriam Bolaji, who's also doing tremendous things for para badminton. You look at Nigerian women's sprinters who continue to excel globally as well. I mean, look at the last under 18, under 20 African Championships. Most of the medals were won by women. Now, you look at the current Afro-Basket, Women's African Basketball Cup of Nations currently going on. Nigeria are 5-time champions. They won the last 4 editions back to back to back. And they are on course for an unprecedented 5th straight wins, never been done before. Only Senegal has come close. They won 4 straight. Nigeria also won 4 straight. And they could win a 5th straight one. Now we're talking about the Super Falcons, who have also won a record-extending 10th African title. The honest truth is Nigerian women's sport is at an incredible level. And this is really funny because the level of investment that goes into it is not at the level of investment that we put into our men's sports. And I think for the honest truth, if truth must be said, and for the basis of equality, because I don't think any Nigerian woman, by virtue of her birth or her gender, is any less than any Nigerian man. I think they should be paid in sports and in every human endeavor. They should be paid with the same wage as their colleagues. They should have the same amount of investments. Because these women have already shown what they're capable of with minimal investment, in proper investment in women's sports in every single level.
Koiki, you've just said it. You've just said that there's so much, well, there's little investment when you compare it to what the Eagles get. But then I think we should now ask, how much pressure does this put on the Eagles, noting that they're so much heavily invested into, you're laughing, but it's true, and seeing that the Falcons have taken it a record 10 times now? How much pressure does that put on them? What needs to change?
The pressure is getting worse.
It's getting worse. What needs to change when it comes to the commitment that the Eagles should put into football in Africa and globally?
That is the word. That is the word. That word right there, commitment. You looked at that final yesterday, and a lot of people have already written the Falcons off. First half, 2-0 down in front of the host, in front of a partisan crowd that was firmly in support of their team. Ordinarily, on the good days, there was no reason why that team should come back from that. And believe it or not, this is still one of the most significant, one of the greatest comebacks in the history of Nigerian football. It is at par with the miracle of Daman in 1999, 1989. It is at par with the semi-final, the Olympic Games against Brazil in 1996. And this is really one of those victories that should be at par with that. 2-0 away from home in front of a partition crowd against the host. And this team have shown that they're capable of doing that in the past. If you recall, at the Cup of Nations in 2021 in Cameroon, they faced the host in the final again. Same scenario, partisan crowd, everything and everyone was against them. They still won. This is the kind of mentality that the Nigerian team that we have today should imbibe. They seem to be a soft touch. They seem to be willing to roll over and die at any small adversity. And that's what we don't want to see. We need to see a Nigerian team that is willing to fight. Losing is not the problem, guys. The question is, in what manner do you lose? You can learn a lot from losing than you do from winning. I would like a situation where even if you lose, your opponent will go home with, shattered wings, broken bones, like that. Look, I won, but at what cost to me? But this Nigerian team, they just seem to roll over and die and capitulate at the most inopportune of times. We saw that at the last Africa Cup of Nations in Cote d'Ivoire. Yeah, there were some questions about fatigue, but I think squad management could have been better. We see that in their qualifiers for the FIFA World Cup next year. But, they've shown that they don't have the requisite fight or bite. And I think they can learn a lot from these girls who have shown that they can win anywhere, go on the road, go to your backyard, your front room, your bedroom, and get a result. And that is what I think Nigerian sportsmen can imbibe and learn from this. Don't forget, there was history on the line for Morocco. If they had won, they would have won their first title. They are also hosting the men's Africa Cup of Nations in December. They would have become the first country to have simultaneously held both the men's and women's Africa Cup of Nations. Gisèle Shabak, who we talked about, the captain of the team, her father won the Africa Cup of Nations in 1976 with Morocco. If she had won, she would have become the first woman or the first family whose father and daughter won an Africa Cup of Nations. It had never been done before. But the Super Falcons swept all this aside and imposed themselves on their host and got what is an extraordinary win. And we're all grateful for that. And I think Nigerian sportsmen can learn a lot from this.
Koiki, you're not much more excited than we are. You're talking too much right now. Let us celebrate too in here.
It's all you brought him more.
Thank you very much for showing equal amount of excitement as we have as well. And I think the whatever happened inside of the locker room, I think a movie should be written.
Listen,
because I can just see everything.
At first, I thought it was a tactic. At first, right? But then again,
that's a big risk.
Listen, and it wasn't exactly because I was having a conversation with a relative that was saying that if they had played and won the match at that first half, they would have had to, by the second half, put their defense on full on, and that would have been a toiling fit for them, right? So at first we thought it was a tactic, but at the same time, it's like, how are you going to come back from two? You could have at least equalized. It was too much big of a risk.
We're still excited.
Thank
you very much, Chidi Koiki, for joining us, and thank you, Lagos, Nigeria, Africa, the world, for joining us for Breakfast Extra this weekend. It has been a very exciting session since yesterday, and of course, we'll be rejoining you Saturday morning for another installment.
Right. In the meantime, make sure to tune in Monday, bright and early, 7 a.m. The trio, as Benga, Olive, and Joe is going to be with you for Breakfast Central. That's from 7 all the way down to 10 a.m. But for us, it's goodbye. We'll see you over the week.